I'm gonna try OBS pretty soon and see if I can do a dual stream. I'm gonna have to test that on my own end. Maybe I'll do some gaming or something. But yeah, we should be live. Hey guys, welcome to another Plasticast. No, it's been about a week or so. We took a last week off because I had other stuff going on. But Brett
And
may
since I,
pop in later.
and since I'm so technologically impaired when it comes to this stuff, there was no way I could do a one man show. It was like, hi, it's me. You know,
Being a
there's a
one
bu-
man band is very difficult. I agree.
yeah,
I've been doing
and I,
YouTube for some time doing this kind of stuff, and it has been a one man band most of the time. So yeah, I get it. And not being tech savvy, like you're saying, it's hard.
yeah. It's easier now than in the early days when Brian on RFC was using a cassette recorder on a Commodore and uploading it like that. It's easier if you've kept up with it. If you haven't, it's it's voodoo and magic, and are you holding your mouth right?
It's like, is it working? Is it working? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. That's how
Are
it
we
goes.
live? Are we live? Are we Memorex? What is it?
What is this?
But we're here. We're here. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting things. So buckle up, buttercups.
Yep. We do have some interesting stuff to talk about this week. There were a lot of leaks, and I know
Yeah,
you
a
tossed
lot
me
is.
a lot of leaks, and I've seen. Well, it's been what, about a week and a half of leaks, basically.
Yeah, it's and again, credit to JT Prime for his diligence in letting us know the absolute deluge. Although we're not getting deluge, unfortunately, but we are getting we're getting a small d deluge of,
I'm
oh
having
my,
tears here because I'd like to have a modern day deluge.
yeah, definitely. But we got a lot of stuff coming, and a lot of it. What'd you say? A third to a half, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah,
Repaints.
yeah, a lot of repaints here.
And some of them some of it does have some molding differences, but for the most part, we've got some of these figures. If not earlier incarnations, we have the mold mates available.
Yeah, like it's interesting because looking at the list we have here, like say the Walmart capsule, they're gonna be doing a Rook, which what would that even be like a repaint of if they decide to
Wind Charger,
repaint? Wind
Wind Charger,
Charger?
because
Yeah.
Rook was a collector's club repaint of the Wind Charger uh, keychain figure,
Mm-hmm.
who was a reporter on post Beast Machine Cybertron. So that, because I can't think other than, unless they went with the Argentine or Argentina recolors of Wind Charger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all said, "Hey, give us a 4 pack of just Argentine colored Wind Chargers." But we know that's not going to really happen.
Mm-hmm.
But doing him as Rook makes the most sense for that mold. A lot of people were speculating, "Oh, it's Rook from Combiner Wars." It's like, no, there wasn't there, because a lot of people don't know there was an earlier Rook that was the Wind Charger mold. So
And there was
that's what
one
that.
before that in G2 that never got a toy.
I forgot about. That's right. Yeah, the G.
That's
Yeah,
where his
because
name came from, was
right.
G2.
Yeah, because the Target 4 pack did not include a Rook. It included the regular G2 Decepticon soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
but not Rook himself. So, I mean, we we have G-Axis. We have Lee's Maximo. Now that you say that, I wonder if they're taking one of those, because they have been pulling figures from the 4 packs, the Hound and the Cliff Jumper, and re-releasing them as single figures under the 86 or under Age of the Primes, whatever the case may be. Now that you've said that, I wonder if they're going to take one of those Decepticon soldier figures with a new head and it be Rook to go with Liege Maximo.
It's a big possibility. I do know that there's two other ones that are kind of unnamed. People don't really think about the G2 thing is Mindset, and you also had Hellspawn. Those were two other ones that were part of G-Axis's big soldier lineup, and it's like those some deep cuts if we get those. Real deep cuts if we ever get those.
Because Mindset also, I believe, was a Bayverse tank.
Yeah.
That mold was used twice. Mindset, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but there was some speculation that some of these could also be new names or the limbs for Nexus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, was it Collide?
I think one of them's called Collapse.
Collapse, yeah. So there's a rumor that could be one of the limbs, one of the 4 limbs that we're getting for Nexus Maximus.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we have a random Brett that showed up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry about the late delay. Life's crazy.
I was late. My wife fixed pork tenderloin with stovetop stuffing with cranberries, which is now one of my new favorite things that has just been discontinued. So I'm like sad.
Yeah.
I definitely like cranberries.
You don't like
No,
cranberries?
they're a good band, but the song got overplayed.
No, I actually like them. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a big cranberry fan. I like cranberries as well. Speaking of cranberries, we are talking about repaints, and we were being skeptical about Rook and this generation's collapse. Not really sure what that one is going to be, considering they were talking about repaints for the Nexus Prime limbs. I mean, what do you think Collapse would be, Don? I know you were talking about him before we popped in.
Well, if it is one of the Nexus limbs, there was 2 helicopters and 2 tanks.
Mm-hmm.
If they're sticking with that, and since they are using the Superion frame system, or the frame system in general, because it works for both Superion and Minosaur, we're thinking if they keep up with that, 2 brawls and 2 vortexes. That would be 2 helicopters and 2 tanks. Now, with the frame system, they might could reuse Swindle. They might could reuse Blast Off. So I mean, or they could use some of the aerial bots. So I mean, as any of those 4 small limbs, since they're all frame compatible, could be any one of those 4. Although again, Nexus Prime is apparently not going to have his own frame, so you have to use a Superion or a Minosaur frame. Which I'm hoping they'll change that somehow.
That, or at least pack in some parts or something with these other figures so that it gives them a frame.
I don't think you could. I mean, you'd have to have 2 of them as a commander, like you did for Motormaster or for Hook and Long Haul.
Mm-hmm.
Just at that commander price point, and that's not been in the leaked listings from JT Prime. Nothing has really indicated there's another commander outside of Jetfire, which is the next one. Armada Jetfire, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, Armada Jetfire, I think that's already got a lot of potential when it comes to repaints, easily.
Yeah, because they can do the Skywarp Astro Train version. They could do the blue and white other Energon version. They could do a Nemesis version to give their Nemesis Prime exclusive from San Diego last year new jet pants. And if they really wanted to get super deep, they could do it as Thunder Dagwan as well. But that is a super deep cut that I probably would be at the bottom of anybody's list. But it's there. It's there.
Most people don't even know who Thunder Dagwan is, but yeah, that's a good deep cut. I would like to see that, or maybe if they go to a Thunder Dagwan, maybe a repaint it into Galaxy Shuttle.
Yeah, that would make more sense than the Galaxy Shuttle we got, to a degree. Although I do like them using that Astro Train for Galaxy Shuttle. It does look. It's not.
Okay.
It's. I think it was a good way to get the character out there, but I think this would look a lot better. As long as they don't use the new Astro Train for anything else, please. That Astro Train is Astro Train.
Right.
Yeah, that's a repaint. Repaints can really turn a lackluster mold into something really great. We've all seen it.
Or
It can be like this again. Why?
exactly.
I mean, that's kind of like one of the things I really wanted to bring up at the beginning of this whole thing was talking about the repaints, like not necessarily the good ones, more or less the ones like Brett was bringing up and starting to say lackluster. Well, I brought up a picture of some of the live photos we have of some of the production samples of Blitzwing and Cyclonus. And honestly, these look great, but my question is, are we just reaching just to do a slight shade different color of purple on Blitzwing and here you go?
Yeah, I much rather would have had the dramatic capture version than this is nice. I have this mold as Blitzwing and as Overcharge. I don't really want it again as another Blitzwing. The only reason I would have bought the dramatic capture one, it would be by himself, because it does look a lot better as that version, but it's not something. Whoa!
Oh,
Whoa!
We have a random Proto Man. What's up?
Holy crap!
Yeah, I know. Just pops out of nowhere.
We didn't even say his name 3 times.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, I mean, the fact that they're just gonna give like the fists on, well, maybe he just popped in by accident. Don't know.
Yeah, I think
It happens. He kind of pops in and out every now and then. Maybe he might be having tech difficulties, but the fact that they're only really like they're gonna give him those silly fists, like I think they could have gotten rid of that.
They're there. It's gang molded. I doubt it would probably be more trouble if it could be gated off and not do them rather than just add them because they're there and they're part of a sprue or something.
Mm-hmm.
They don't serve any purpose. They're surplus to needs. I butchered that Furmanism, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. Surplus to requirements. To use it correctly.
Right.
So, as it sits, I am not trading out the Blitzwing. Cyclonus does have, it looks like from what I'm seeing, the head, the gun, and something about the feet. But I already have the Kingdom Cyclonus, which is a really great looking toy. I have the Target Master version, which other than the really bad shoulder connections, is a very pretty toy. I don't.
You don't need it.
I don't need it. I like it. I like the paint differences in the jet mode. But again, we're looking at incremental differences at this new $42 Voyager price point or the new $55 price point for leaders.
Yeah,
if that's what they'll be when these actually hit market.
that's very true. Like, the the fact that they're just doing what they're doing with this whole repaint situation, I think it's okay that they're doing this, but I think we're getting to a point now that it's like they're kind of just draining it. If you're gonna do this, give us like, Target Masters or something, or like Don said, the one time he would like to see the inverted colors, like kind of like the G2, the one that you really talked about. You would like to see an inverted color of this from that one episode where they go into that other dimension.
Yeah, the killing jar.
The
yeah,
killing jar.
I mean that's
that to me would have been more admiral, like more of a, okay, I need this, not unless they're just trying to throw the same figure into that thing to say, oh, we're going to get an 86.
yeah. I mean, the Kingdom of Cyclonus should have been an Earthrise,
Mm-hmm.
but that's fine. It doesn't matter what the label is. The figure still looks great. Although there have been reports of that figure having some yellowing issues by this point. So I guess it boils down to is, are these incremental differences in molding and painting worth you getting this mold as Cyclonus for a third time? Because we got Kingdom, we got Target Master, we now got this. And that's not even counting 2 versions of Metal Hulk from this.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, what do you think, Brett, about this whole repaint situation with just these two in general?
Well, I guess my thought would be, I understand that they're trying to get as much as they can out of every mold possible. So, of course, they're going to, use that mold as many times as they can and get as much money out of it. I'm actually more interested into why that current figures are yellowing so much faster than G1 or G2 figures do.
Yeah.
Is the quality of plastic that bad now?
Well, the early supposition was that these Vietnam factories were learning about the plastic mixing tolerances, and that the shipment overseas on these cargo ships was causing the heat from transit, because the plastic was not correctly mixed, to adversely start them to yellowing them prematurely. But it looked like there for a while the yellowing was not happening near as often on near as many figures. But people were saying how their Earthrise Thundercracker is starting to, the blue is starting to turn that weird
Correct.
green.
Yeah, so
I don't know at this point.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, you could blame it on the plastic, but I mean, is it as bad as like let's face it, gold plastic back from G2? All right, it held up just fine, but then because of the swirls and this, that, and the other, over time it becomes brittle. The plastic we're seeing now, that's at a much faster rate deteriorating.
It's a completely different plastic too. The thing is that Don covered it a little bit right there. In 2015, when they went to Vietnam, that was a whole different crew of people. Yeah, it was 2015. 14, if you want to be semantic. That was like really when it first was the turnover. But it was a whole new crew of people that, while they were a plastic injection manufacturing company, had not really dealt with toys up to that point. I learned through Aaron and John Warden, because I started working with Combiner Wars at the time, was that factory was recommended because they worked with Walmart, but they worked with Walmart in plastic forks, coat hangers, stuff like that. So that kind of stuff, I mean, we would have to talk to a plastic fork collector to know what the yellowing is on that. But, it's something where they just were not familiar with that environment. And the reality is, if you talk to a Vietnamese toy manufacturer, they're not thinking about long-term collectability. Toys are supposed to be disposable items by children. You buy it, 2 years later, it's gone. Mr. In Point here, good example, I'm in Canada, climate-controlled basement, pretty decent. He's not too bad. But, like Don said, if you're a guy who ordered, the best example, I like Artfire, the Generation Selects Artfire. That was one that every single person who bought that had to have that shipped to their house, as opposed to this being bought in retail in an air-conditioned Walmart, So Artfire was one of those examples that it came out, it shipped, regardless where you were in the world. If you were in Montreal, Canada, where you have winter 6 months out of the year, it shipped during June, July. Sweltering hot Montreal, even in Canada. So every single Artfire, regardless of where you're talking, is yellowed because of heat. What used to be the guilty party for yellowing, especially if you're a mint in box collector of Grandis, anyone who knows a mint in box Grandis, it cuts off the box. And so like if you have mint in box one, the yellowing is uneven. So like he has like this weird like V kind of on it because of how the box was cut on the window. That's photosensitivity yellowing. Completely different plastic back in the day. That was affected by UV sun. Now it's a kind of plastic that heat on top of UV sensitivity affects. And I think that 99% of the people that are complaining about yellowing today, it's not about sunlight. It's about the fact that if you live in Florida, it doesn't matter if you run air conditioning in your house. Sooner or later, you're going to leave to go to work, and you're not running AC. Why would you waste that electricity? And now Cyclonus or Cyberverse RC is another great example. They're sitting in your house for 8 hours minimum in what could reach sweltering conditions. And that's what causes the turn. And once again, Vietnam, when they were first charged with this, they didn't know that this was going to be a thing because they never had to deal with it before. The stuff that this short little history lesson, when it was with China, it was a company called Jetta Plastics. They had been making toys for like 60 years up to that point, just locally in China, and then obviously started taking over after Macaw in the 80s and then into the 90s with most toy companies. But Jetta Plastics was like this extremely seasoned company that understood plastic injection molding, plastisol, all of that. When everything went to 2015 to Vietnam, and it was slow because masterpieces didn't go right away. Some masterpieces were still made in China. I think it was up until 2019 or something, did the full, like around Raiden. I think that's when it started going to Vietnam. But it's just like there was this whole like new, like it was new to them. The factory workers were new to toy assembly. There's all these extra layers to it. And it's not me trying to make an excuse for it. It's just typical, they're trying to find the lowest, cheapest denominator to assemble their products because they want to be able to keep the same profit margin year to year to their investors. If you made, for simple math, if you made $1,000 profit and it was a great year, you want to be able to go back to your investors and say, we made 1,100 next year. But if plastic costs become more expensive, if the worker costs become more expensive, if deco costs, anything, injection molding, oil costs, because oil is plastisol, which is plastic, and everything that's going on in the world with oil prices. If any of those go up, you have to diminish something else to fill in the gap. The example that I always give, the best example of Hasbro balancing the budget, I'm sure everyone here has owned Beast Wars Retracts at some point, correct?
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone here has also handled a Beast Wars card back at some point, like a deluxe card back. If you mess with Retracts, the reissue that they did, that was Hasbro having this coming to God moment where they went, oh my God, deluxes from like 1997 cannot be deluxes today. So they had to remove 2 legs off of Retracts', I think it was 10 legs that he had. 2 of them were removed. They removed 3 decos, and every single card back of Beast Wars reissues was as paper thin as a comic book. It was so thin, and the bubble that was on the glue on the bubble, excuse me, would be like nothing. It would fall. So they pulled little things here and there to save budget to be able to make that product exist, and that's used across the board. This used to be ABS plastic pre-2015. Today, it's what's called MABS plastic. MABS plastic is a plastic that is used for roofing. It's a recycled plastic. Recycled plastic yellows like crazy. So now it doesn't matter when it's a recycled plastic. How long did you keep your bottle of water after you were finished with it? You don't know because it's already been recycled. But I'm pretty sure if you would have kept it in your room for like 3-4 months in a sweltering condition, it's going to yellow. That's why, like, when you see bubbles for like old alternators, like alternators that had like that bubble design, those ones, they're made out of recycled plastic. So a lot of them you see yellowed throughout the years. It's plastic science that unfortunately the companies that they hired to do are not super experienced in. China's been doing it for 60 years. Vietnam, kind of crazy, barely 10. So it's.
So I guess what you're saying is during that period that those figures are more finite than the older ones.
I'm worried the long term for a lot of these. GPS only really became a noticeable thing because I have very like vivid memories of going, I'm gonna mess with my Beast Wars Grimlock. Like I remember one day I was just like, I'm gonna mess with my Beast Wars, and then snapping his like knee leg off and going, oh my god, what the hell is this? Not knowing what GPS was. Now I had a G2 Superion, but he was in combined mode and I didn't touch him. So obviously I think was it Slingshot?
Yeah, Slingshot.
Jason, Slingshot.
Yeah, Slingshot.
Slingshot's one.
So like, I didn't know, I wasn't aware of how bad GPS was. Same thing, I didn't mess with my laser rod, I think it's Electro,
yes.
But it was that Grimlock that I went, what's going on here? And this is pre-wiki, we had the message boards, we didn't have Twitter yet, Facebook was barely a thing even, I think it's true, I was still living with my parents, so it had to be like even before Facebook. So it's just, and it was me going like, oh my God, like this figure is barely like at the time I think 8 years old, and there's a problem here. There's something going on. So who knows what is going to surface 10 years from now on some of these items that we're not aware of. There's a lot of items that have clear plastic that who knows? Like it's kind of crazy.
One of my questions that I have, because we were talking about repaints and all these repaints we have that's come out. Like some of these figures that come out, they have kind of a rubberized type of plastic. Like I don't know, does Cyclonus have
Vinyl.
kind of rubberized kind of heel ears? Like to me, that type of plastic over time, doesn't that degrade even quicker than the harder plastics?
So there was a line.
Soft plastic. Yeah.
There was a
the soft
line
plastics.
done by Playmates back in the day called Ronin Warriors, and Ronin Warriors, the helmets of the figurines, they were like Shogun helmets, but they had these like sharp edges on them. So Playmates, to meet with toy, safety laws, they made those sharp edges rubber instead, but they used a low quality vinyl. Every single Ronin Warriors figure today, that rubber is hard like a rock, and as a result, like hard caramel. Like it just crumbles if you mess with it. And it's something where it really depends on the quality of, because when you think rubber tires, what you're actually thinking is vinyl, because they don't really use rubber. Some of them did back in the day, if we're talking like old Hot Wheels and stuff, but or Dinky and Corgi from the 60s. But a lot of it uses vinyl. Now vinyl is way stronger. When they do use rubber does crack. It dries out. Best example, let me reach it over for Mr. Expensive over here, who's missing both of them. Any RID Optimus Prime, this is the expensive yellow one, but splendid convoy. But it's like, those ones use rubber. And then obviously when Hasbro started using rubber, because think about it, right? Up to that point, when was ignore Takara, when was the last time up to that point in 2001 did Hasbro have to use rubber on tires? They're really, like, during the whole Beast Wars era? No. Like, and then like when you even look at something like G2, there's maybe like what, Sideswipe, and even then I
Sideswipe,
guarantee that was probably.
Inferno.
It depends on if you
yeah.
count. It
Yeah,
depends on if you
but
count
that's
the
what I'm
rubber
trying to
band
say. So
also.
there was such a huge gap between Hasbro, then the Kenner era, going back to Hasbro, that when they did RID, they went straight to rubber tires. Everything dried out, everything cracked, and they went, oh boy, now I remember why we didn't use rubber tires. And then they went to vinyl. So a lot of it is vinyl now. A lot of the rubbers that we're seeing today is vinyl, which is way more stronger. Way stronger. It's way it could still dry out if it's in an extreme condition, but in most modest conditions, even a sweltering hot house, it should be fine.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe direct sunlight probably would mess with it, but no one should be doing that anyways with their collection.
With RID, with the tires, I think it was more along the lines of the glue they used for the tires.
It's a possibility.
They were always popping. If you looked at the tires, they were a single piece that were glued together to make a circle. And it was always the glue that gave way, and that's why they split. Now,
that's the thing that I noticed is like
the rubber did degrade after that, but I think it was just like you said, quality. They cheapened on the glue that held the tires together.
A lot of things. I mean, I have this great chart. It shows like the ups and downs of price points of Transformers throughout the years, and Beast Machines was a loss year. They didn't do very well during Beast Machines. Like that's why like Hasbro even to this day almost
well
seems to be
anywhere, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but it was really bad in terms of sales. So they probably dialed it back in a lot of spots when it came to the product itself. Obviously, they added deco in some areas for some of the car robot brothers and stuff like that. But in general, I mean, that was a year of rebuild before going into Armada. And I would not be surprised. That's something I'd have to ask Aaron. But even then, Aaron didn't work on RID directly. He only did some copy. So I don't know if he would know the Plastisol questions. But it is something where it's like, that was a rebuilding period. So it wouldn't surprise me if they cheaped out in some. It was the only time in Transformers' history that a price point went down. It was so Obsidian in Beast Machines, the green one, was I believe $7.99, and then they made that same price point $6.99 the following year, and that's like that cow-colored Obsidian. It was the only time in Transformers history price went down. Never happened ever again. Ever again. Every deluxe price point held or went up since then. Now it's like every 2 years there's a new MSRP. It's like it's crazy now.
They just keep hiking it.
Yeah, it's a price hike.
But the thing is,
it's an excuse.
Yeah. The thing is, though, with all of these leaks that we're getting, again, thank you, JT Prime, we're seeing the Blitzwing. There's changes, but again, incremental. Is it enough to buy it again? Cyclonus, how yellowed is it? Is it enough to buy it again? Taking away the yellowing factor.
The interesting thing with the Cyclonus, a lot of the stuff that was focused on, that was new tooled, was the problem areas. So think about it, right? So new head, right? But it was because there was a neck joint that was yellowed. New biceps that were like reinforced, but that's where the yellowing was. This was all brand new. That's where the yellowing was. And then new legs, but when people don't talk about is the connection points were also yellowed. So I think what happened was they went, look, we're going to revisit this toy to do it for the anniversary. Oh no. And keep in mind, when they plan this is planned 2-3 years in advance. So like, we're talking like they realized this was a problem back in 2023. And then they went, like when we're going to do this new Cyclonus, it's going to have the same problem. Look, they reissued the Scourge 100% unchanged. They just put that thing out there. Oh, More to Meets the Eye collection, Transformers 86 movie, studio series, unchanged completely. They probably wanted to do the same with Cyclonus, and they went, this thing has problems. So we're just going to be putting a hat on a hat if we put this thing out here. We should probably fix those problems. And when they went to go fix those problems, they went, screw it. If we're already going to go mess with the tooling and change the plastic, we might as well change things up. You know, if you're already messing with the tool and messing with the injection, have fun. You might as well do something while you're there. So that's kind of what I think happened with that. With the Blitzwing, I mean, if you don't have the Dramatic Capture Series 1, this is a good second place.
Which I was talking to Jason before you and Magnus popped on. I would have preferred getting that Blitzwing because just the visual impact it's more because I have Blitzwing and I have Overcharge. It would be worth it to get that Dramatic Capture one as a new Blitzwing for the third use of that mold versus what we're seeing here.
Between the two of them, the only difference is there's more vibrant colors on the Japanese one, and the sword is painted in.
Yeah.
When you look at the Blitzwing that we're getting from Hasbro, it's still marred in between the budget limitations of a leader class price point. When you look at what Japan is, this is the thing with Japan, and it's been like that forever. Whatever it needs to cost is whatever it's going to need to cost. They don't have price points. They have what's called variable price points. This started all the way back with G1. Oh, it's not going to be that Hot Rod, Cup, and Blur are all going to be the same cost. If Hot Rodimus has to be 2,800 yen and Cup it has to be 2,100 yen, that's just how it's going to be. You know, that's why, like, a good example is Hot Shot. You know, Hot Shot had that little LED light in his fist for Armada in the Japanese version, and the others didn't. Everything has a variable cost. They could change it around, and because they could change it around, that means they're not locked into, well, here's the limit of the budget. We can only put four paint deco hits. Oh, we can only use this much mold injection. Oh, this one can't come with its Target Master. It's very different over there. So when they do stuff like Dramatic Capture, it could be whatever it needs to be. They need to give them, look, they got rid of the little giant Hulk hands, if you want to call it that, you know?
Yeah.
They got rid of those because they're just like, it doesn't make sense. They didn't even see value in it. You know, think about it. It's injection on the mold. It's not going to make a difference. They might as well include it. But their logic wasn't excess. Their logic was it doesn't make sense for it to even be there. You know?
Now, another repaint remold that we're seeing is Cliff Jumper. And Cliff Jumper has a lot of discussion going on about him. And people are saying, like, okay, I have buzzworthy Cliff Jumper that has the blue windows. Do I need this new Cliff Jumper because his color layout isn't right? And the thing is, those colors are based on what plastic is already there, if I'm not mistaken. So that way, they unless they fundamentally change the plastic, as far as what they can do with it.
It's the curse, which I thought we got away from this. It's the curse of Cliff Jumper being part of these damn Bumblebee molds. That's the thing. We had, like, after Classics, it was like, okay, movie Cliff Jumpers, classic Cliff Jumpers, you know, even like Legends style classic Cliff Jumpers United, everything was a Bumblebee redeco. And then around Transformers Prime, they're like, oh, Cliff Jumper's going to have his own tooling. Oh, Cliff Jumper's going to have his own tooling. Oh, Cliff Jumper's going to have his own tooling. Like, there was a little bit of an independence there. And now we're back to this stupidity. It was screwed from day one because, I'm going to use here the bumper one, Cliff Jumper's color layout by Fluoro Deary is 100%, like this Cliff Jumper, we'll use this one uses the exact same layout, is based off of the Fluoro Deary animation model. So that means that you're going to have a crotch that's going to be the same color as a forearm, that's going to be the same color as a shoulder, and a collar. As a result, that means that if this has to be gray to be accurate for Cliff Jumper, this has to be gray, which is going to be wrong. That piece here has to be gray, which is what affects that alt mode look, you know? So by being a Bumblebee redeco and how the sprues of the mold work out from the color wave, you're screwed. And what sucks too is even his legs are backwards. If you look at the Cliff Jumper animation model by Fluoro Deary and Sunbow, and you look at the toy, the colors are reversed. It's wrong. But again, it's because it has to be a Bumblebee redeco. It's screwed by that. Not to mention, I mean, it doesn't have the spoiler on the chest. The spoiler's on the back. You know, it's the best Cliff Jumper toy we could get up to this point until we get a masterpiece. Yeah. You know, it's like it's our journey.
Which may not happen because apparently the mold was lost.
They'll do it. Yeah. You know what? It's the same thing. Remember that Armada Optimus Prime
Yeah.
prototype that like never came to be, and then look,
Yeah.
now we have the. They'll do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
If the
well, let me-
money is there, they'll do it. But at the
Well-
end of the day, it's something where it's like, here's our 84 cliff jumper. That's the best cliff jumper. Then we get the classics one. Okay, I guess that's the best one with an upgrade kit from Fans Project. And then it's like, oh, then we got that little legend scale repaint of Bumblebee. Maybe that's the best one because that's like a, it's a little smaller one, so it scales better. Then we got, what was the next one we got that was a good cliff jumper? I guess you could go jump right to the Earthrise one. And then you mentioned the buzzworthy Bumblebee with the blue windows and the more color accurate bazooka. And now it's this one, So and look, let's be real. What they do this all the time. We're going to give you 80% of what the figure should be, so that way we could get you in another 5 months later with something better. If we get, there's a term I use. I call it an apex character. If we give you the apex version of that character, like if you own Masterpiece Wheeljack, you never need another Wheeljack ever again. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, there's not a Wheeljack they can make ever again, or Masterpiece Shockwave. From like certain ones, you mess with them and you're like, what can Hasbro do at this point except replicate that?
I've got what I need. Again, though,
But what's your best cliff jumper? Exactly.
It's probably going to be the buzzworthy one at this point.
Or Missing Link if you want to like squeeze that in there, because that's a good one too. Yeah. But it's just that's the sad reality is that it's not the end for this character. It's something where if you pick this thing up, it'll be your best cliff jumper for now. And then 5 years from now, they're going to be like, we got to do another G1 cliff jumper, celebrate the 45th anniversary of the 86 movie or 40th anniversary of
the Fantastic 45.
Yeah, well, whatever. They'll do it for G1, it'll be 2034, 50th anniversary cliff jumper because he was in the first episode, and he'll come in a 2-pack with Hound or something. They'll pull something out of their ass. But that's kind of the reality. That's kind of the reality of it is Aaron talked about this many years ago. When they did Cybertron, they're like, hey, this mold looks like it's a great Huffer, but we ain't going to make it Huffer. We're going to call it Armor Hide and make it blue. And they know because people are going to buy one because it's a new mold. Then they're going to buy a second one to paint it orange. And then we did get a Huffer because it was a BotCon exclusive. They always know that if you start with the right coloring or if you start with the best version of it, why would you give people a reason to ever buy anything else? Like right now, that Huffer that we got from Kingdom, that's about as good as he's ever going to get. I don't think we'll ever need another Huffer toy ever again, outside if they do a masterpiece that somehow floors us. But those are mistakes, though, from a business standpoint. Because now, what Huffer are they ever going to give you that's ever going to make you want to get one? You're done. You're done. But if you give them just 80%, you satisfy them enough, but you could still get that next sale later. Yeah. Like DevCon, we're done. But mind you, DevCon's a deep cut. But like DevCon, we're done. I don't think we'll ever do better than that. The cliff jumper's pretty good. I feel like we're at the end of days with some of those characters.
Yeah, we got DevCon. I'm happy. I'm not going to worry about getting another version unless they do a masterpiece version.
But imagine that BotCon one that was teased. Imagine that was a retail product. You would have picked it up because, oh my God, it's DevCon. Here's my DevCon. Until it isn't. Just like you probably picked up an Energon RC back in the day because here's my RC. Sure, it's not the car. Sure, it's not and then when you got the animated RC, oh, now she's a car for the first time. There's ways to trickle forward you purchasing the same spirit of that character without it being a way for you to go, no, I don't need this one. I don't need this version. I have the best version. Why do I need this one? And they don't want to hear that. Because if that happens, that's game over. They lose the whales, which is us.
Yeah, but when it comes to repaints, there is a thing that, okay, again, like I was saying, we're looking at incremental changes on toys that are not that old that we're getting the third version of, like Cyclonus. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is that you can understand it from a business standpoint of what they have to do to make money, because that's their job, to make toys, to make money. But you also have to look at some of the fault goes to the fandom, because it's like, here's something wholly unique and different. Well, we don't like that. We want what we already had, but then we complain about it's the same thing we've already got, but a lot of us will still buy it because it is the new version that is incrementally better. And it also depends on what the character means to you. There are characters
yeah,
like
that's
for
very
example, it's like Shockwave.
Hmm.
Do I like Shockwave? Fine. Do I need to buy the new Shockwave that's coming out to replace my Siege Shockwave? No, because the changes in the toy are not important enough to me because the character is not important enough to me to have the best version. And that's what the problem is that these incremental changes, if they don't mean anything to you because of the character, it's frustration because you're getting the same thing basically with no real merit other than, to use the meme, she's got a new hat.
I mean,
Well, the elephant in the room and the reality is that, Hasbro is not doing well as they have been. Toy sales are down, birth rates are down, kids are not buying toys if there even is any kids at all.
The world's
It's
on
a
fire.
whole other spectrum that leads to a whole other discussion. But when you're talking repaint and partial versus brand new tooling from the ground up, that's the route to go. You got to go into an era, once again going back to Car Robots. Let's be real, Car Robots was completely redecos, of everything. There was no new tooling across the entire line there outside of Mega Head Megatron, which was just a holdover from Beast Machines. But all of that stuff is the cheaper way to go about it. And in a world where, and I believe it was Nate from Hasbro's marketing said it, they said that they were going to be doing one wave less than they normally would a year, and they were going to include one less new character a wave every year. Instead, there would be a filler in each wave. So you'd have, like, if you had four deluxes, you'd have one that was like a filler from a line before. Like, oh, we'll put out so-and-so again, Let me think of an example. I don't know, like, Beach
plan on
Comber.
doing, like, Runabout again here soon or something like that.
Well,
They're
yeah,
planning on
well, and
re-releasing them.
think about it. That it's kind of a smart way. I'll give them that, in that they're targeting items that have huge secondary market value. So they know that even if it's not a top tier character, the only people that are left buying anyways are in the know, which are collectors. So they know, Greenlight's big money. Runabout's big money. Runabout, I did a segment about this recently on my podcast. Runabout went up 1,700% of his MSRP. He was $17.99 back in 2020 because this was Earthrise. Ugh, to have $17.99 again, guys, for deluxes. But he was $17.99 in 2020, and today sold on eBay right now $220. So think about that. So Hasbro sees that stuff. It was specifically Benjamin Mack, BMac, who was the one that first started noticing this and going, shit, we could get that. Why don't we get that money? And we'll sell it to you for $27.99, instead of $220. If some guy's willing to pay $220 on eBay and it's multiple people, do sold listings right now for Runabout, excuse me. And you're going to be like, damn, like, what the hell? Same thing with Greenlight. What was the other one that they had that was also a big ticket item that they put up? The Shatterglass Starscream.
Yeah.
Shatterglass Starscream is like also like 300% up his value. Granted, he's another yellowing nightmare, so that's another good excuse to revisit and fix. So it's something where they're looking at those as, if you could revisit a tooling and be able to, I mean, we see it as a reissue, but it's, to them, it could be considered redeco even, but it's taking tooling that already exists and making money from it. That was the entire foundation of 84, 85. That's the reality of that one. Mm-hmm. Hasbro's greatest times in the 80s was all retoolings and just repacking items and redecos. And then when are the dark times? Oh, when we had to make our own stuff, when we had to make our own tooling, then we weren't making money anymore. And then Beast Wars came out. It did so well on its own merit. But look at the second half of Beast Wars, the Fox Kids repaints, all of those other redecos. Like they knew how to milk a line. And then when you go into even movie stuff, movie 2007 was crushing it. Instead of making new tooling, let's just take some Cybertron molds. Let's just take some, classics molds, just put the movie packaging. It is so much more affordable in the good times and in the bad times to just do that because it's easier. And completists will get the itch and want to get that fracture or crosswise or whatever redeco they do. And the ignorant mom and pop purchase will just buy it because it's a robot. So profit is profit, money is money. It's just that the three that were revealed, and this is another thing too, that people haven't really mentioned yet. The three that were revealed for the Mexico City Comic-Con. Hasbro has deals with these big conventions that, hey, we'll give you space, good space, for a really cheap price. You give us some big exclusive blah, and that's kind of the agreement. Obviously, they're saving the good bullets for San Diego, So they probably looked at their lineup and went, what's redecos, not new tooling, more safe? We'll put that for Mexico City, and we'll save the crazy stuff for 2 months from now. And that's the deal that they have. They make sure that they're going to have the big that'll be on IGN News and comicbook.com and everything and Screen Rant and all of them, like all these like mainstream non-Transformer websites that'll pick up this news because of some big reveal. San Diego, if I remember correctly, the big reveal was the Titan class Grimlock. That was the big one. There were some others too. They showed Amalgamus, they showed a few others, but the Grimlock was the like, oh, that's cool, So, and it's the same thing. Like they'll save a HasLab reveal for San Diego, which they did with Star Wars last year. I was there, so I remember like specifically what was saved for all of those across the different brands. But they do that on purpose. Mexico City was going to be Mexico City. If you look at across the other brands, they revealed only a Spider-Man and a Hulk figure for the Marvel stuff. They kept it safe for Mexico. But all the stuff that they showed obviously was, from our perspective, a little underwhelming. But the inside baseball of what's going on is also kind of lost there too. In that, look, June they'll probably have some kind of live stream, Fan First Friday, whatever. And then we all know end of July going into August, San Diego, hold on to your balls. There's going to be something. For sure it's going to be a collaborative item, supposedly the rumored Batman one that they've been talking about for a while. They think that it's going to be revealed there.
They've been talking about that for some time. Like, when did they...
And that's why the belief is that it's probably going to be revealed there because it's San Diego Comic-Con. They have a good partnership with all those other companies. Batman will be on the floor too. They could do some kind of, nice booth and everything. Mm-hmm. Historically, McFarlane Toys and Mattel are always next to them, like every year, because they always have the same spots. So they could probably do some kind of, merge together. Like I remember when they had the Jurassic Park stuff. Mattel, I believe, had the license for the, what was it called there? Amber Collection? What was it called? Like they had like their version of Black Series.
I think that was like their Black Series.
Yeah. So but because they still had this crossover with Jurassic Park, they made sure like their two products complemented each other with their crazy displays that they had at San Diego. So they know what they're doing now. It's very different than what it was a few years ago. Aaron told me, he's like, today all the companies, they all talk to each other. Like they all go, hey, what are you working on right now? But he's like, back then, Aaron has it's these buttons. And it would have like a picture of the Mattel logo with like a cross through it, because you were Team Hasbro and screw those guys, mm-hmm. Like it was a whole different animal back then. Now it's like he's shocked. Like, oh my God.
A mixing pot at this point.
I think it's also for just jobs. Because, like, think about it, right? If you're John Warden and you get canned, you got to make sure that you have friends at Boss Fight and, Nacelle and Super 7 and Mattel. Because you never know. You never know. Look how it is now. It's like people get laid off all the time. The last thing you want to do is create beef with a company when tomorrow you might need to be applying to work for them. you know. So and that's a sad reality, but it's true. Someone just went to Boss Fight recently. Who was it? I forgot. It was Lenny.
Yeah,
Lenny
from,
Penzica,
yeah, from
who was
the,
like,
joke
who was
from Classified.
well from class, but he goes all the way back to Beast Wars, you know, Beast Wars. He was a little bit of Real American Hero back in the day, and Beyblade and stuff. Lifer with the company, and then see you later, Lenny. Your paycheck was too much. We'll get a guy out of high school that is hungry and be willing to do it for less. That's such a sad reality. That's what happened to John. That's what happened to so many people. Yeah, it's when you look at those quarterly reports to announce to your investors, and you go like, like we're losing money, but we have a guy that's been with the company for 20 years, and obviously just by being in a company for 20 years, your paycheck swells and swells and swells to the point that it's like, you think we could hire AI to do that? That's and then look, and Hasbro has been pretty evident that they don't mind using AI from what we saw from the April Fool's joke recently,
Yeah.
So AI is totally on board with them.
And I can see them using that for like design stuff, but I mean, to be honest, I've dabbled enough with AI that I know it's got its own hiccups. You actually have to have people look at things. You can't just expect a computer to do everything for it.
Yeah, but now the guy that that looks at things could be a kid out of college.
Yeah.
That knows, and that's going to get paid $17 an hour as opposed to a salary of $200K a year, which I don't want to say who, but certain individuals at the company were pulling in with bonuses, which they don't, that doesn't exist anymore, but they used to have bonuses too, so it's a completely different animal. And again, that's when you take the step back and you look at the bigger picture of what's going on. And once you understand that stuff, it gives you a better perspective of like understanding some of the decisions that are being made. That's why, like, when I see these like very mid kind of products and reveals and stuff, I know that I think I've said this before, but like we're in the G2 period right now. Like we're not dead, but we're really like reassessing ourselves. We got a comic, we kind of don't have media, and that's what G2 was. We had media, but not really, because look at what we have. We have Cyber World, but not really. It's a 10-minute web show. We had Wild King, but not really, a 5-minute web show, that then got region locked and now you can't even watch it at all. And so we're in the G2 period right now of redecos with some new tooling, playing it safe. There's all these other brands that are doing better right now because during G2 Power Rangers was taking over the world. So it's like we're in the G2 period right now, which I'm then hoping that we'll reach a rebirth, Phoenix Rising, Beast Wars period afterwards of creativity. No offense to the lover of G2, with us today, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of the spirit of it, of like what's going on business-wise. That's how I kind of feel we're in right now. Because every time I talked with them, it's always like, hey, we're going to do this, and then it doesn't work out. It's like, oh, Transformers 1, here we go. Ooh, it didn't work out. Okay, like Cyber World, like we're going to go to YouTube because that's where the kids are. Ooh, it's not really catching, like it's a tough one because in a shrinking toy market, in a world where, I mean, man, I am, every day I'm surprised G.I. Joe still has its mouth above water. Like I'm like, who, and I love G.I. Joe, but like who is left that's carrying that line on a retail level? Like I would, if Classifieds was 100% Hasbro Pulse subscription service just made for the Joe fans, I could believe that. But for millions of those to be shipped to every single Walmart and Target, where are these people? Like, I mean, that line is,
that's a good question. I mean,
Brett,
didn't you say you got out of Classifieds?
Yes.
Why did you get out of Classifieds?
Now we lost another guy over 40. You know what I mean?
Thank you for 40, by the way. There's too much. It's just too much.
But if we lose the over 40 guys, who the fuck is left? Because the guys under 40 in their 30s, they're playing Call of Duty. They're playing Fortnite. Their military avatar was video games. It wasn't Real American Hero. Those were kids that were born in the 90s. They were 10 in the 2000s. They had an Xbox. They were playing Halo. You know? So it's
Master Chief
different.
was their G.I. Joe,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, and even then, how many Master Chief toys do you see in Walmart? You don't see that because you don't that demographic doesn't. Aaron said it best. He's like, he has kids that like cartoons, but they're not striving to own action figures of the product. And when they do, hold on to your pearls, they don't mind owning a Funko Pop. Like, to own just the one thing. It doesn't even have to be articulated. It just has to represent Adventure Time. It just has to represent, whatever it is, that meme that they saw. Because they don't care about having the posability and reenacting that cool scene from that episode that they love. It's so different for them because they experience that action through the video games. They experience that action through Instagram, TikTok. Look, I'm pretty sure all of us are guilty of probably wasting time doom scrolling. But we're grown adults who weren't born into that nucleus. Imagine those who were born into that. That's all they know. That's all they've been fed. So to them, it's completely normal to spend 8 hours and nothing but 8 hours on a screen. And nothing but, just, and not consuming anything on a large level. Oh, 5 seconds of this, 5 seconds of this.
Goldfish syndrome.
Us, after 4 hours, our backs hurt, but we're a little different, but it's just, it's tough. And when you sit down in those meetings and talk about it, you're going like, well, what brands do well now? And it has to be stuff that has a competitive edge. Like, Beyblade still kind of works. TCGs work, but TCGs also work because they're extremely low cost. It's only cardboard, 14 pieces of cardboard, and you sell it to them for fucking $21. Oh my God,
Yeah, don't get me started on the Pokemon.
They love that more, Like all this oil-based plastic for $27.99 when I could sell you, 14 pieces of cardboard for the same price. Which one are you going to do if you're a company? Yeah. So it's something where they're really trying to figure it out. Look, even Gundam started shifting into doing TCGs because they're like, look, it's expensive. And Gundam was a company that for years through Bandai, benefited on the fact that the customer was the assembly worker. Just printed it up on the screws, and
here in the States,
your problem now, buddy.
I've heard there's a huge resurgence. Like, people really want Gundam kits here.
Oh, Gundam still, because here's the thing.
I'm
people
even
who
guilty.
enjoy
I even
model
have some
kits.
Gunpla.
Oh, dude, yeah, I got stuff nearby too. Like, when it comes to, if you're a model kit person, it's the experience. That's a whole different discussion. Because that's why don't you just go out and just buy the RX-78 kit? Not kit, action figure.
Speaking of kits.
Oh, yeah, Kabaya.
Kabaya, but even like currently Blocky. That's why Blocky does so well.
Blocky's does so well. Here's the inside baseball on this one. Such a super quick turnaround manufacturing process. It is absolute. Think about it, right? You get a figure that has articulation like this, okay? Like crazy articulation, double jointed this, tampos, all of that, $3. $3. If this was the exact same product, put into a box, a little bigger, what was this? $24.99 back then, and it shit the bed like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't sell Megatron, Starscream, Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, Soundwave, Grimlock, where was this line going to go from there? If you couldn't sell those guys, where are you going to go from there? Blockies, manufactured in China, designed in China, licensed in China, they own the factories, quick turnaround, and the cost is nothing. Meaning, like, a case, when you get a case of Blockies, it comes to about $3 a unit, which is crazy. when you think about that. Obviously, it depends where you're buying it from. If you buy it from an importer, they might make it to $5 a unit, but still, that's so cheap for great products. The Star Wars ones that they're doing that are like almost like 3 3/4, it makes what Hasbro's been doing all these years look like idiots. They're $3 each, and Hasbro's asking what, like $10 for a 3 3/4, or like 11 now.
Oh,
So it's just it's
over 10.
making it's making people go like, like Hasbro's in a situation where they're trying to really have the most maximum profits they can. They many years ago they forgot who their customers were. For the longest time, the customers were the people buying stuff in retail. Today, their customers are the investors. They're so obsessed with the investors. When they do in their investor calls, you guys should sit down and watch those. Because all it is, this was when Brian Goldner was still alive. Brian Goldner would sit there, skinny as fuck, going through cancer remission, and you'd have some soccer mom going, why should I still have stock with you guys when you guys went down 3 points last year? That bitch is not fucking a Transformer fan. She's just someone that's trying to diversify her portfolio for early retirement. And unfortunately, those are the overlords that they're more concerned with. They don't. If we complain about a yellowing Cyclonus, their answer is not refunding us, is not helping us out. It's putting out another product that, spoiler bitch, you're going to buy it. Oh, and by the way, that Cyclonus that you bought during Kingdom for MSRP for Voyager, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same.
No.
It's going to be more. What is MSRP right now for Voyagers? $37.99, something like
really,
that.
Like, I know we talk about like Hasbro products.
Sorry, Don.
If you look at Lego's extremely guilty for this stuff because of how much they keep up, charging.
That whole
just
thing
because
about
of
the brick.
IPs.
The whole thing about that brick.
The only thing that I'll give with Lego is
that stupid.
They have
brick
yet to
thing.
go to China, and that's something where it's all still Denmark, and it's their biggest flex and their biggest weakness, in that Lego is really expensive because they're actually paying their workers a living wage, and again. It's kind of like Gundam. We are the assembler of the product, so they do have that advantage where there is no assembly line workers for Lego. But so it's it's still cheaper to manufacture than if Lego was making Transformers, but not actual, you know what I mean, action figures. But it's just something where because they're in Denmark, they're always going to have this problem of like, stuff's always going to be expensive. That's why, like she, who I live with, my wife, is a huge Lego collector, and I cringe whenever I see the prices, because I was never a Lego guy, but when Creo was a thing, I remember buying those sets and going, "Wow, big ass Devastator, blah blah blah," and all that, and it was like $40. Mm-hmm. Where that same Devastator kit, if it was a Lego kit, would have probably been like 120. But that's because that was done in Korea. Through, I forget what the company was, Jizao or something. It was a Korean company that did the Creo stuff, and Lego is Denmark, and so Lego's a unique animal, and they're going through all the same problems that all the other companies are. Is if there's any problems with oil because of war or this or that, oil equals plastic.
Yeah.
So that's always it's a finite resource that you could only get so much, and whenever there's some kind of scarcity. Unfortunately, toys are one of the ones that aren't exactly on the priority list when plastic is a limitation. There's medical equipment that need to be made. There's vehicles and all kinds of other stuff. So it's something where, unfortunately, Hasbro and all these other companies are kind of low on the good prices for plastic, deals for their injection molding.
I've been talking about this for several years, and the technology is not where it needs to be to make it a reality. It's closer now than it was, say, 4 to 5 years ago. About how I think that we're going to be seeing companies selling digital files, not toys. They're doing all the work, and I know out in the third-party space, There are people doing Joes. There's people doing Transformers. So I know that already exists in that kind of third party ish motif. But I'm looking at these companies will eventually be selling you a file, and maybe they'll find some way, like the DVDs from the 90s and early 2000s that would play a couple of times and then stop working. That kind of thing that they tried. So that way you can't buy a file for $10 and make 4,000 figures.
Well, I know that if you at HasCon 2017, the one and only HasCon, they had a booth there where they were talking about 3D printing, and they were like going like, oh, like this is a new idea we're working with. It was because HasCon was pretty much the Hasbro trade show. That's all it was.
Right.
Here's everything we're doing. It wasn't even really a convention, and there was this whole section that was like, we're looking into 3D printing. It's going to probably be something that's in the future of the brand. And they would like 3D print out a little Spider-Man figure that had an articulation at the waist. They just wanted to show you one piece of articulation in the waist so it could swivel, right? And everyone got one printed for them if you went to the booth. And then the following year, they signed a contract with a company to do 3D printing original ideas through the My Little Pony community. And then all of that went silent. You can look this up. It's somewhere out there.
Yeah.
And then it all went silent. And I don't know what changed. Like maybe the pandemic, something happened where that whole initiative kind of went quiet. And I think that they're probably working on something. They just feel that they could still be. I think that they want to wait until it becomes too expensive for them to be the manufacturers of it. Then they'll look into making the customer the one who's buying the spools of plastic and being, the ones who are.
The thing is, just like for a white spool, just one white spool of PLA to be able to just print is $20, and it depends on the size of the figure you're trying to print. Sometimes you'll go through 3 spools to print said figure,
So
and you have mistakes that happen. All tiny little bitty defects. I mean, because I know I'm into 3D printing quite heavily.
we did TFCon exclusives that were 3D printed. This was the Pokemon Game Boy cartridge, right? So to do just that white and then the transformation, to do all of this I think they came to 15 cents a unit, but with the Tampo, you have to make about 300 of them to get 15 cents a unit. And then it's the same thing. Oh, you want to do the gold bug color? Well, now you need to have a different sprue color for that one. And then again, the face, it's the same thing. Different Tampo for that one. So, and this is the prototype, but it's something where we've already kind of like played with the 3D space and see how the costs are when we do it on our end. I want to believe, going off of what Don said a little bit, when the CD burner was first like introduced to the masses in like I want to say 95, 96, when that started to become a thing, and then how it really disrupted the CD market over 5 years, and then it almost kind of disappeared once the iPod came out. I want to believe that as 3D printers become more mainstream, because it's still kind of niche. You go to a convention and there's some jackass printing out 1 million dragons or whatever, filling up the booths and everything. But it's still pretty niche. Like a lot of people, everyone in their house at one point had a printer. Everyone at their house has a computer, but not everyone has a 3D printer. Mm-hmm. It's not at that kind of population spread yet. And I think that we'll reach a point where it'll be so good. There'll be some kind of 3D printer that'll come around that'll be like that go-to 3D printer. It'll just be the best one. That'll have the best quality, and everyone, you own an ISOP or whatever they'll call it, and then everyone will have one, and then it'll be the go-to for like, oh, you need forks? Oh, you need this? Oh, you need that? Because it's going to get to a point that getting your forks from Vietnam with oil costs and flights and boats and this and that and everything, it's going to get to a point where it's like, is it worth it? And certain companies are going to wake up to that and go, and not to mention, this is an ongoing discussion that always is happening about the health of plastics in our body. And that's always becoming a thing with microplastics and stuff like that, and how lower quality plastics are getting into our environments. You know, there was a recent study that came out recently that every single spicy sauce that you've ever bought from a fast food joint, like, you know, barbecue sauce and the acidic corrosiveness of the spicy sauce destroys the plastic, and you've been eating microplastics for years. And it's forever chemicals. It stays in you. And this is all studies that they only decide to really put out when we're all fucked. But that's a whole other discussion, you know? Yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's something that's why the 3D printing thing, I think what's going to happen more now is I think companies are going to not want to have to be held responsible. Like, oh, plastic is poison? Okay, then we'll make it the customer's problem if they want to have plastic products in their house, if they choose to print it voluntarily. Because if we sell it to them, it's a suable offense, you know,
Well,
unless we put a warning on it. So these are all deeper discussions that have been had over the past 2 years, that who knows where that's going to go when it comes to everything. You know, like, we're going to find out, like, you know, oh my God, every single Transformer toy made between 2015 and 2018 had, you know, leachable plastics that led to, you know, fertility issues and God knows what, you know, like, it's like, we're going to find out all kinds of crazy stuff afterwards. And I feel that the move to making the customer responsible for creating the product will also protect them. That's a little, like, deep kind of, you know, thinking, but it's like, it's something that has been a discussion, not in the toy world, but in the, like, the food world and stuff like that, because that's becoming a problem right now, where people are eating stuff and then they're finding out, like, oh, their bottle of water, depending on where it was stored, like, you know, 20% of it is microplastics. And then they're going like, well, could you sue Naya now? You know, it's like,
and Nestle owning most of the bottling companies in the world.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But getting back on, you know, kind of like we were talking about the repaints and stuff. All this is mainline. You know, this is what we expect at a mainline level. Megamus. If we have time tonight, I don't know if you want to talk about it tonight or not. You got something that already has a repaint solicited. And if I'm not, why don't you tell everybody what you've got? And since we're talking about repaints.
Well, I went to the doctor and I got rid of that, but
Hey,
I'm okay. So,
because this is an example of a repaint making a specific character into a completely different character, even though it is the same toy.
Man, you've really lost me.
You know what I'm talking about? It's what you talked about. What you got that you weren't really happy with.
Yeah. You were not very over the moon as much as you were thinking you were going to be about it.
Well, I mean, I got the missing link Ultra Magnus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like basically the proto version of missing link Delta Magnus. Or
okay. Now I got you. You lost me for a minute, but I
was
caught
trying
up to
to
the
be
train.
Subtle.
I caught up to the train. Okay, give me a minute.
Yeah. Your Astro Train.
He got back on his horse to catch up with the train. Give him a minute.
I did. Okay.
So basically, you've got the proto color for Delta Magnus or UK movie opening Ultra Magnus, depends on what you want to call him.
Well, I mean, how nice do you want me to be? In all honesty,
I'm just saying. I mean, we're talking about you've got the toy that's already got a repaint scheduled to be released.
Okay, so
with literally almost no changes other than colorations.
Correct. So
to be fair, every single missing link was strategically chosen to have some kind of redeco, also to make use of the tooling.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that
you got Cordon from Sunstreaker. Like they'll go deep if they have to.
Oh, I know, because you have to build in that. You have to build in the flexibility, which is why we've been seeing up until the past 10 years, there was a Reveal the Shield figure. There was a Generations figure that had an extra head that was never used, but they were already
On the
planning.
screw. Yep.
Yeah. So, but go ahead, Megamus.
I mean, what can I say? If you have a G1 Ultra Magnus, you kind of know what you're going with. If you've looked at the Missing Link Prime and the extras, the extra articulation, the extra joints, you kind of know what you're going with. When I was imagining Ultra Magnus, I was imagining more than what I got. It is still, it's a brick.
The problem is to achieve any of those flexible poses with that brick, it's not appealing for shelf display. Like it's I have a lot of those Missing Link guys. You know, we're not going to use RC because she didn't really have a tangible experience for us before. But like the Optimus, you could splay the legs, you know, the shoulder articulation, like you could do a dynamic pose. All the bumblebees and the cliff jumpers, you could pull that off. The Ultra Magnus, I understand what you're getting at. He's pretty stiff. And yeah, he has knee articulation, but there isn't really a pose you could do. You know, they put the knee articulations, they could say, hey, you could do the box art. But you're not going to display it like the box art because it can't stand. You know?
Well, like I said, I mean, I got the Prime. Amazing. Sorry, I love it.
Yeah, it's good.
The Bumblebee, Cliff Jumper, amazing. Something so small to have much articulation. And then
it's scary
Sunstreaker. Oh my God, such little additions made such a big difference. Ultra Magnus, it
and for that
it's about
price,
having that little power.
Is the word lackluster?
Yeah, for that price, you expect more. You were happier with an Optimus Prime at 79 versus 129, whichever one you got, than you are for an Ultra Magnus at $200.
It was a masterpiece price too. That's the part that got me. That you're paying for something that would have been a crazy tooled masterpiece product, but what it really was is, and granted, it's not a retool. It's also something straight from the ground up. Let's be honest. I mean, yes, it is the G1 toy with articulation, but it is something from the ground up. But the vibe, you would have thought you were getting like a masterpiece product with tons of weapons and a trading card and a little Marissa Fairborn figure and da-da-da, you know. But instead, yeah, you got a little Diaclone figure and you got Powered Buggy. That's the selling point, in my opinion. You know, Deer Stalker, as he was called, the little blue version of him.
The problem is like the Buggy is, there's no paint apps. There's nothing on it. It's very bland. I mean, I've got the vintage one, the Power Buggy. I actually like the pop off and piece together more than I do this. It's just like, So I would have rather they just not included that and gave me like $50 back.
Well, I mean, I don't think they would have nickel and dime that. I think that was a big part of the selling point when they did the manga.
They did it for the repaints in mind. Everyone knows that.
Oh yeah. Well, when they did the manga stories for them, they made sure to really feature that. You know, like because they knew like, okay, we're gonna do the Delta Magnus, you know, powered convoy at some point, but we're gonna still use that tooling for the Powered Buggy. Let's do a Ultra Magnus version called Deer Stalker. Let's do a manga. And when you see Takara investing that money to do partnerships with media, to do a manga story, to like put it out there, it means that they had hope for this, you know. To me, it was just, and this is probably what also gives you that weird stomach feeling, it's the price. That's what it is more than anything. I think that like when I saw how much this thing was, I'm like, $150 maybe. But I mean, think about what the Optimus was, you know?
But it's
kind of the same thing in plastic weight, if not less.
But that's a name Optimus, I think people are willing to spend.
It holds more water, yes.
Yeah. It's like.
Yeah, but that regardless if it holds more water, the Optimus was cheaper than the Ultra Magnus.
Right.
Well, sure, but they can justify the cost, whereas Ultra Magnus, I feel like I'm cheated.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the price. I think that, and that was Japan deciding that pricing. So either there was something from a costing standpoint I'm missing here that clearly made it so expensive that they had to go about it that route,
or they just
or they were testing the market. How much could we get them to pay?
Yeah, it's called gouging. It's what it is.
If
I'll
we
be
could
honest.
get them to pay this.
I mean, do you think tariffs might have had something to do with that pricing too?
Nah,
Not to
what?
mention, also remember that the tariffs were reversed in the United States.
Yeah.
If tariffs were a thing, then how come we aren't reversing prices now?
Exactly, because people knew that we would accept it, so they're sticking.
We
to that.
muscle
And now
memory
there's an
whatever that
inflated
new
price.
MSRP is with that bullshit. Like, oh, we got to make $17.99 now because of tariffs, and I'm like, okay, that means when those are over, we're going to go backwards, right? No, we'll just blame it on something else.
I mean,
Exactly.
I hate to say it, the taste of all this started in 2020 when the prices of everything started going up and it never dropped.
Well, everything started with COVID.
Yeah.
And the fact that
Everything started with that.
if you look at the collecting market, and I really looked at like comics, there's such inflation because you had people couldn't go anywhere, they couldn't go out, so what did they do? Well, I'd like to get something to make me feel good, and then the government started giving them stimulus checks,
Free money.
to stay at home, free money. So then the price of a comic that was $10 is all of a sudden $25-$30. So then people bought it. Oh, this is an investment. 2 years later, that comic's worth $12. Oh, I messed up.
Every single item that went up in crazy money in the secondary market of recent Transformer product all come from Earthrise during COVID.
And they dropped.
Earthrise was 2020. It's so funny how it's like
dropped.
all of those like big ticket, some of them have been leveled out since then. Oh, now, Trailbreaker's cheaper now because they did a reissue and they did a box set and so. But there was a point where almost every Earthrise product was also because it was hard to get it in retail because you had no access to it. But at the time, because it was all cordoned off at Walmart's. But it's something where, people were stuck at home. They were spending money that they got for free. And then, that money that's free money wasn't free money because then they would turn around and then scream inflation. And then that was the first price increase, which was 2021. I documented all of these. And it was the first big MSRP increase. Then they claimed tariffs. So that was the second price increase. And then they claimed, oh no, now we're going through a financial crisis with oil and a war, third price increase. And that all has happened within a span of 5 years, where it's crazy that between Beast Wars and 2007's Michael Bay movie, we had a $10 deluxe for 10 years. 10 years. 96 to 2007, 11 years. But,
So what it comes down to is if you give them a reason to inflate the price, they're going to take it.
Yeah,
But they'll never
now
go
more
backwards.
than ever.
They'll never go backwards.
No. We're stuck
And that's
with
the
it.
problem.
Our $12 deluxes we used to have back in the early 2010s or whatever, that's gone.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing is, now that it's been struck down and all these refunds are happening, we're not getting any refunds. The companies are getting refunds, and
Which I think is the stupidest thing.
Yeah,
because we're the one that paid for everything, not them.
yeah.
Well,
They passed that on to us.
Hang on. Yes, we did. We did get a break. Okay. The IRS changed the cost of living. Okay, and they changed the minimum deductions, so we did get a break. And whether you know it or not, you actually got back more this year than you did last year. Now, is it comparable? No, but it was something. Okay, so there was a reevaluation of that. And the problem is, this is where I'm worried about, they based it on the cost of living based upon 2020, 21, 22, and that's when everything was inflated. So when they reevaluate it again in 2 years and you find everything dropped, other than gas? Are they going to drop the standard deduction? That's a point. It's a point of conquest there that you don't know. But yeah, they did kind of throw a very, I'm not even going to say a bone. They threw us a crumb.
But the problem is
going on.
when you have refunds like that, they never address the fact that inflation is always a compounding issue. In that,
Sure.
when everything inflates, now you buy a loaf of bread and it's $1 more. Then you go to buy a pack of gum and it's 50 cents more. Then you go to buy your transformer, it's $2 more. Then you go to get your slice of pizza and it's $1 more. And then you go, oh, but at least when I got my refund, which I get once a year, oh, I saved $400. Yeah, but you just spent an extra $400 just on that one grocery bill, like an extra 400, and it compounds, and then it's like then it goes in every little micro transaction that happens afterwards, because then it's like, now because everything's more expensive, the guy selling something on eBay is going to ask more. The guy who runs that convention is going to ask more. Like it all, the old saying, like rising tide rises all ships. Like
Sure
everything goes up with it, and as a result,
I guess you missed what I was trying to say.
go ahead.
Is they're throwing a bone to try and detract from what's going on.
Well,
The government is like any other business. They're not going to lose money. They don't want to lose money. They're not going to lose money. So they throw bones. They throw this. I mean, we got a stimulus check a couple of years. They throw all this out. And what do you do with that stimulus check? You push it right back into the market to help other businesses to increase their net worth.
That's why it's called a stimulus check. It's to stimulate the economy.
Stimulate the economy. Sure, it's not to stimulate you. It's just isn't. So yeah, I mean
if
we're
everybody
kind of
took
going
the-
around and around here, but yeah, I get it. To make a little bit of sense here, repaints, recolors, all that stuff, it's dollars. Everything comes down to numbers. No matter what you look at, you could sell anything. It comes down to numbers. If they can lower their costs by increasing their profit, by doing a repaint, they're going to do it. Case in point, like I said, this Ultra Magnus, it has everything that the movie one's going to come out with, that the Delta's going to come out with. It was easier to push it this way and try and, explain the cost. But they didn't make this thinking they were going to make one. They, of course, knew the repaints. The profit. So, do you like repaints? Some. Are they kind of a necessary evil? I think so, because I don't know if something like this would have been made if it was just the one and done. I don't know. Or it would have cost more.
You look at anything. Look, we'll start with G2. Repaints, Beast Wars, the second half of it, the back half of every line is repaints. Unicron Trilogy always has super modes. Back half is always repaints. Then you look at like even something like animated. Where do you get your redecos there? The entire Japanese side of things. Every single one of those was a redeco. And same thing with Transformers Prime, all redecos with Arms Micron. They find ways to get the costing back of the tooling, because that's what it really is at the end of the day.
Sure.
And it's just something where I always say, if they get 3 deco hits out of one tooling, that's a success. So like you look at the Blitzwing, you have original, you got dramatic capture, you got overcharge, and now you're going to have this new one that's 4. Way to go on a leader class, which is a higher ticket item. That might end up in Ollies in the end, for all they know. Like that's the sad reality.
Don't care.
Well, it's the reason I brought up the whole Ultra Magnus thing was you kind of expect at the retail level with Cyclonus and Blitzwing and all these other characters that you're not really surprised there's not that much difference with it being a brand new one. But then you have this price point at $199 for Ultra Magnus. And then, Proto Man, you are much more of a Diaclone person than I've ever been. It's never Diaclone and the pre-transformer stuff has never interested me in buying it because it doesn't hold a connect. Even though I was alive,
It doesn't
at
have
the
a
time.
media that makes you interested in it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have.
Why
whatever
the
stuff- yeah,
reason
yeah,
why
whatever
any of us like anything in general is because of the media tie to it.
And our memory-
Diaclone didn't have that.
Yeah,
At least not on a larger scale. It had a manga, but that's about it.
exactly. But it means more to you than it does to me. Yet this Delta Magnus probably is. You're not going to buy the Delta Magnus because it's in these colors, are you?
Well, me, I mean, I like the history of it because, I mean, if I had a choice between the two, personally, I would just get the Ultra Magnus because the missing link stuff, speaks to me from this articulation matching the box. To me, missing link, what I like about it's hey, the box art that was done by Mark Watts and and Richard Meijer, you could do that now. Like that's kind of the missing link thing
See,
to me.
I'm the
And
opposite.
Hey, hang on. So I'm just going to say this real quick. The missing link to me is not so much the box art. It's when I first got it, it's what I wanted it to do.
which was looking at the box art.
Well, or just I wanted it to move. I didn't want a brick.
Oh, watching the
Okay.
cartoon. back
If-
in the
if-
day.
And
If
a lot of
finally-
them did that. Like I said, all the other ones that they made so far knocked it out of the park. I'm a big fan of it. And then to have, RC, which we never got. Oh, absolutely. I love it.
that was
Great. Out of the park.
that was the pinnacle for me. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was. And then I got this. And I'm like, well,
The other
it's
figure,
okay.
the other
It's the sticker
figures,
shock.
the other figures were finally able to do what your imagination always thought they
Exactly.
were.
I never
Okay?
looked at the box art, but I what he's saying is true. It's what I thought it should be able to do.
Because I'm the exact opposite. I have City Commander Fans Project.
Oh, you
Parallax
like
Armor.
bricks then?
Yes, I have KFC Stack. I have Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. I have 86 Ultra Magnus. I'm good on Ultra Magnus, but I did want the mold, so I canceled Ultra Magnus and I did pre-order Delta Magnus just to get that mold. But from what
Something different.
something different, so I can
Yeah.
still experience it. But from what I'm hearing from you, $200 for meh doesn't sit well with me, and the character of Delta Magnus doesn't mean as much to me.
In
as
my
it would-
opinion,
I can
If-
tell you
if
that,
you have-
as
if
I
you
always
have
say,
the
your
200
mileage may vary.
if you have the $200, maybe get the Masterpiece one, Delta Magnus. You know what I mean?
It's more. It's also for me. It's more of the mold.
Okay.
I have
It-
the Masterpiece Ultra Magnus, so I don't really need that other.
Okay, so you want something that's a unique tooling that you can mess with, but also it's a different character.
Exactly. So that way, I feel like I'm getting more for my money.
Yeah.
I will say this much. It's sitting right here next to me. When I see this, I think of G1 Ultra Magnus, 100%. When you start messing with it, you see the extra things, the fingers, the waist, the all that.
Knee joints.
But you're like, I look at the others, and they can do so much more. I
For
was
that-
expecting
for less
that.
money. It's a
And
combination
for less
of
money.
it's a combination
Significantly
of not meeting your expectations
It-
that price point should.
You know what? Maybe my expectations were too high.
I mean, this is how I see this. For the people out there that has never been able to get hold of like the e-hobby version of that Delta Magnus, say they have a G1 Ultra Magnus, they want a Delta Magnus. This is probably gonna be the cheapest way they could even have that color.
It's
That
definitely
was the
a
other
cheaper
on their
alternative.
shelf.
hobby,
They
that's
don't
for
even
sure.
have to pose it like that, and it can still look G1.
If anything, it was like, and not to mention, if you even got that e-hobby one, you didn't get the powered buggy.
Mm-mm.
No.
Because that tooling
Or
wasn't
Diaclone
part of
never.
the sprue.
None of that.
Yeah, so to me, the powered buggy was the selling point. That was like if that wasn't there, I think that would have significantly changed the the excitement for that figure at that price point. You know what I mean? If the powered buggy in there and they're asking $200, I think a lot of people would have been like, "Ooh, I don't know."
Well,
You know?
I'm just telling you that the power buggy it's just not all that. It's very.
It's just the mystique of it, because it was this thing that came with Magnus that we didn't get. You know, we didn't. It's like, imagine if like Optimus Prime had a second roller that was a different tooling that transformed into a car or something, like not a car, a space shuttle, and we didn't get it, but only a powered convoy got it, you know, or something like, battle convoy.
I mean, but battle convoy got Diaclone drivers when you get those, and
that's just it. Like that little extra, and that's what all these missing links are starting to come with. They're all coming with Diaclone drivers.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
They're trying to add that little extra that gives it like, well, even if you have the G1 one, you didn't get this. You didn't get the Diaclone.
But I can tell you right now, if they really wanted to wow me, they would at least put the magnetic feet on them. They don't have that.
What?
I mean, I'm sorry, something
small.
small.
That's small that could be swallowable. I don't know.
I'm just saying. No. Am I glad I got it? Yeah. Yeah, it does. Am I glad I paid $200? No, I'm not. So, I honestly, like I said, you keep the buggy, give me $50, and I would have been happier.
What worries me is the fact that they asked $200 for this, and as they're asking $200 for this, I'm imagining in my mind the day when we'll get Unicron, and going like, what are they going to ask for him now? Like, before this Ultra Magnus came out, I was hoping Unicron would be the $200 price point.
Yeah. When are we going to get this tub? Yeah. When are we getting this tub?
I hope, because of RC, that it's something they're considering. And the transformation is known. People have messed with it. It's a very simple transformation. It's doable. You know? It's very simple, that transformation. You know, you don't have to include the rumored electronics and stuff with the Orson Welles voice. Just be the bare bone. But what worries me is if frickin' Magnus was $200 and they justified that, what is this Unicron going to be? Are we talking $500, almost a HasLab item?
Well,
you know,
also if they do a combiner, if they do a Devastator. Because if they do a combiner,
that would have to be done in parts.
Yeah, but I'm saying if they do a combiner in missing link, it's probably going to be Devastator. Imagine what that it would be $80 a figure minimum, probably.
Times 6.
Mm-hmm.
How much? It was $40 for Bumblebee and Cliffjumper. Yeah, because I can imagine. Yeah, Scrapper or any of them, they probably ask like $70. Because it was like $40 for like the mini bots.
Most of the Constructicons are fairly simple. Now, Hook,
it's the extras.
Yeah,
But also remember, keep in mind that you briefly talked about Lego. Mm-hmm. Lego just popped up with their new price point for their Death Star, $1,000.
Oh, good lord!
$1,000.
He's talking about the slice.
Does it have the magic brick?
It's a slice.
It is. But think about it. They just
is that a retail product?
$1,000.
That's a retail product? It's one thing if it was like a Lego club, blah 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 blah.
No,
that's a retail product.
MSRP
$1,000. There's not even game consoles that are $1,000.
I'm just telling you. Think about that. It's out there. And they're still selling. So you can't tell me that Hasbro's not going, I want some of that. I want that price point.
Oh god.
Well, I need some extra wax on my Mercedes. Come on.
Lego, more than any company, has completely abandoned marketing to children anymore. You go to Lego websites, you go to Lego because of her upstairs, I see how their marketing now, it's all adult based now. Now it's like if you see someone building that Death Star, there's not a kid in the photo. It's an adult. He's wearing a dress shirt. He's in his office in the background. He's smiling, building that $1,000 wedge like you just told me.
Oh
yeah. So let me guess. If you go to the Lego website, there's no big Duplo page.
I'm sure it still exists, but
You know, you almost get the vibes where you have to be 18 or older to enter. Click here. It's
well, it's something
that
it's
bad.
something that brand knows the wallet of its audience,
sure.
and it's wild. Like the days of Bionicles and $8.99 canisters in 2001 don't exist anymore. You know, which
do you
was like a
think-
price point for
And there's
them
a
when
lot
they
of
were
people who want
rebuilding.
those
the company.
Bionicles to come back too. There's a
Do you
ton
think
of
Well, they
people
tried it.
wanting
It
to
didn't work
happen.
out,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay.
Well, I just made a point in the price point. I mean, price points mean nothing anymore. If you can sell a Lego for $1,000 and you can sell this Ultra Magnus for 200, at what point are we going to be at 3,
Well-
4, 500 retail?
But that's exactly it. Is that what's happened? Is it used to be here's the cost. Like there's a term. It's called A price, B price, and C price. The A price is how much does it cost to manufacture the product from the factory. The B price
Correct.
is how much do we sell it to the distributor, and the C price is what we pay for. Right.
Right.
So the B to C.
A dictates B dictates C. Got it.
And that's how it used to be. But now it's like because of the shrinking profits, there's less sales that are happening, but they still want to record profits to their investors.
So they
You have
increase
to
the price.
increase the profit margin. So now you have to, and one way to do that is cheapen the product and increase the price. And then you create this beautiful margin that, oh, we used to have to make $4 a unit. Now we're making $7. And what's changed? Well, because the plastic was cheaper and the price increased. You know?
Well, we talked about that before with hollowing. Figures being hollowed. And
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
were like,
Hey guys,
Cut in real quick.
Don's gonna
I
have to
do-
bounce. That's what he's been saying.
Yeah, I gotta go. I didn't realize it was getting that late. Y'all guys take care. Have a great discussion. I apologize for having to leave. Good seeing you again, Proto Man. Take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself too, bro.
Y'all guys have a good one.
Good night, Don.
see you later,
Bye,
Don.
y'all.
So you had this hollowness, and then what did other companies, they popped up and they made fillers and gap fillers and this, that, and the other. And I kept saying, Hasbro should look at that and just do it themselves, charge $20 more and be done with it. But they can't do that because
You'd
the
be
whole
addressing
world
your
market
weakness.
doesn't want that. So you have to look
Yeah.
at costs. So I get it. So then other companies come in to coin it, fill the gap. And that's what they do.
Well, I mean, that's the third party upgrading and doing what Hasbro didn't do is not a new idea. Goes
course
all the way back to 2007, 2006 with Fans
Well,
Project going, why didn't you give a trailer to Ultra Magnus? You know,
Right,
like,
but the point is that it's not because they couldn't do it. It's because price points dictate
yeah,
and profit margins dictate what they can do. And then for the select few that want the extra, they can go this route.
not to promote another podcast, but I just did a segment with Aaron Archer talking about classics recently and how there was going to be a trailer, but then there was no price point for the Optimus. Like it just didn't, because they were going to make them deluxes. And then they're like, ooh, well, that's kind of funky, so let's make them a Voyager, and the rest was history with that. But it shows that, like, you know, it's tough now. It really is. It really is right now, where they're just, every time they do their quarterly reports of like what did well, what didn't do well, and it's the same story. It's toy sales are down, Magic the Gathering is up, and lucky for them, the thing that's down is the expensive to manufacture thing. The thing that's up is the cheap to manufacture thing. It's just cardboard. So they keep their head above water. But I worry about the future. Already, like recently, they announced the Hasbro Legends channel. Like it's a network channel that they're going to be doing. And I don't know what the story is with that, but I'm telling you, it's going to come out at some point. I get a feeling that it's not run by Hasbro. I think someone paid a license to them. And that's going to be the start of something too, where I wonder, when are we going to reach the point when Hasbro is going to start just licensing out Transformers and it's someone else's problem? Like if McFarlane's going to be like, you know what?
Some time.
Oh yeah, because it's going to get to a point where it's not going to be profitable for them. It's I'm telling you, we're going to reach that point where they're going to be like, look, if we make it ourselves and we have to get this factory to do it and it's our problem, like that's why Hasbro loves store exclusives, because the store exclusives, that's their fucking problem. You know, oh, Walmart wants a Toxitron collection, whatever. Okay, you have to buy all that inventory up front and then it's your problem. That's why, because people complain about store exclusives, but Hasbro loves those partnerships because then they don't have to worry about it. That's why, like the recent NFL wave, like the new wave of those collaborations, one of them is going to be a Target exclusive because that first wave already on clearance, and they promised that they were going to make all 32. They're like, oh, we're going to make all 32 teams, and that first wave, it's like, let's be real. I like football, but I'm a minority in Canada that likes football. What about the rest of the world? You're going to sell football to a Japanese collector? You're going to sell football to a country like UK where football means a whole other thing? You know?
Well, let's put it this way. Here in the Midwest, I see nothing but the Steelers one just sitting there shelf warming. The other one sells.
Yeah, right now, as we speak, if you go to a Walmart right now, all of them ring up at $17. They've already been cut almost 50%. And so they realize that. So wave 2, one of them is going to be a Target exclusive. So that way they know at least they could offset the cost on that one, where Target, now it's your problem. So that you have to buy all of that inventory up front. And look, if you want to sell it to Ollie's and blow it out afterwards, or, you know, New England Coat Factory, wherever it's going to go afterwards, you know, that's fine.
This is my question with this kind of thing. Like, a football helmet that turns into a transformer is cute, but it's like, could they just made these made to order when they save so much money from made to order on this? What
I felt they should have done, which would have been genius from a profit standpoint for fans, and it would have also been able to still make it happen. These should have been exclusively made for the gift shops of those stadiums. And then if you're near one of those stadiums, you're the source, you know, for the completist who wants them all.
If they were all Kansas City Chiefs, you would never see them on the shelf. They'd be gone.
Well, no, but you bring up an interesting point.
When you go to gift shops, when you go to gift shops, there's already overpriced crap. If you could sell an MSRP thing, that thing would have crushed in the gift shop.
It would have been more desirable to make it harder. It would have been this
exclusive item, and there'd be 32 of them. And
anyone that doesn't think exclusivity or limited numbers doesn't artificially create value, you're wrong. It does.
No, 100%. There's been BotCon stuff that for no reason anyone should have wanted, but it's a BotCon exclusive.
I mean, trust me. And trust me, you know, I am pro BotCon, and I understand, and I love that. But
all of them right now.
There was some stinkers. There were some stinkers,
there's a lot.
And I'm like, man, these really, they sucked. But they're still worth a lot of money.
Let's not sell you one. Let's sell you 3 of sweeps and Sharkticons.
There were so many bad years. But the thing is that, well, if you were there, you got it. If they did
and it gave you an equity.
A certain time, you got it. After that, it's gone. Secondary market.
It gave you, and this is what I'm saying with the gift shops. If you're near, now you have this kind of equity where it's like, as a fan, it's like, hey, you want to be able to get this? I could hook you up, you know, or I could put it on eBay and make a profit, you know? So there's a little bit of an equity there too, because I remember, like, every time you go to BotCon, you'd be stupid not to buy a second set, you know? Oh, you could buy a second box set?
For your hotel if you
trade bait.
It paid your weekend. Like if it was a hot set that weekend, if you sold that thing for $350 investment, $1,000 saved, that's your hotel, that's your food. Sure. If you drove in, that's your gasoline. Did you know that at Disney they had? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was Transformers. They had Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
What it was, and I'm not even talking about the movie and the stickers and all that.
Wasn't he called?
They actually, hang on. Do you remember the penny machines where you put a penny in, you put 2 quarters, you rolled it over, and it pressed out a penny in the form of?
I'm familiar with that. I didn't know they did Transformer ones.
They did 4 or 5. I'd have to look.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, why is something being exclusive so exciting to me? Well, because a buddy of mine happened to go to Florida, and I'm like, please, just sit there and crank out these pennies to get me the 4 different ones, and I got them. I mean,
This is recent or old?
it was about 5 years ago.
Okay, because you're making me go like, there's a G1 thing I don't know about. When was this? You know, like,
I'll have to find them. I'll find them.
interesting.
Yeah,
This
I
is the
got
first
'em.
I hear of this.
But the goofy thing is that it's something so simple, so stupid, but because it was exclusive, they made you want to get it. So if you
course.
took the same idea with these football helmets, which are ridiculous, and you made it exclusive to each city, you'd be like, all right, I really don't like them, but
And it's low cost.
how am I
It's
going to get that? How am I going to get that Steelers one and not go up to Pittsburgh? How am I going to
one
get
and a half tooling, you know, so it costs them nothing. It's the same tooling except the face. There's just 2 different heads, you know, and that's it.
And the coloring, the
totally
stick.
that. There's the incentive, like you said, that if you have an opportunity to pick this up, and it's only in your city, and only to that store, nowhere else. And think about it, right? They could, and this is the other twist to it. Most of the time with retail product, it's that season and then that's it. This is something that they could be carrying year round, year after year, a popular product that's always there. Coincidentally, I'm wearing a Montreal Canadiens shirt. You go to the Montreal Canadiens store, they have Stanley Cups, they have all kinds that's there all year round because it's popular seasonal items that always do well, that they upsell because it's obviously a gift shop tax, as we'll call it, the gift shop tax, you know. Dude, like, that's how I've always felt they should have tackled it. Because to me, it's like, to put football helmets all across Canada, are you serious? And then to think, like, you're going to put that in the UK? You're going to put that in Japan? Like, you could get away with a Darth Vader transformer because UK knows Darth Vader, Japan knows Darth Vader, Canada knows Darth Vader, but American football, like that, same thing, the soccer one that they're doing, that breakaway, woo, what the hell, you know, like, talk about, like, I get it. Soccer is the #1 sport in the world. If anything, that's hedging its bets even more. But even then, that's a tough one, you know, like, if I'm waiting for the cricket transformer just for India, you know, and it's like, we're going to be fucked, you know, like, some of those are like, look, some of these collab items already have like went to deep clearance, and they were based off of big properties that you would have thought, oh, the Naruto one should have been a shoe-in, you know, this one should, I don't know, man. Again, I'm not in those meetings, but the sad reality is sometimes they come up with these things and they don't think, like, because these employees are also not long-term employees, they don't have that long-term thinking. They don't think about, like, well, what's going to happen like 5, 6, 8 months from now? Like, it sounds like a cool idea. Hey, like a football helmet transformer. Gee, that sounds cool. Yeah, for a bot, you know, not for a 32. Like, this is a recent number that we've only learned recently. So the #1 redecoed tooling of all time in Transformers was the Deluxe Seeker Jet at 34 redecos. If you count BotCon, TFCC, the Japanese variants, 32 or 34 redecos, something like that. There's 32 football teams. That's crazy that it's coming close to like a Seeker record number. So for that to be done on a mass retail level, every Walmart's going to have it. Every Target's going to have it. Every Walmart in Canada, every Walmart in the UK. That's madness. Like, what are you doing? Talk about a waste of plastic. And I like football. I like the 49ers. They're my team. But it's like, you have to separate your passion for it and just try to be rational at that point and go like, who is this for? Because if it's just for you, then why didn't you just get Bobby Vala at Valaverse to customize you something? Like, don't wreck your entire company just so you could get a Steelers helmet. Come on, man.
I see where you're going with that, Proto Man, because I mean, how many times, like we talked about, like like the ones that turned into a shoe, the ones that turned into a hat. This kind of, to me, falls into that same category as who is this for?
That was the Nike
it's
label.
Weird.
They did 3 different redecos of that. Outside of me, I don't know another human being on the planet that owns that. Like, I don't know who owns that. And the other Nike label, which was the hat that you're referring to, I don't have that, and I don't know who owns that. Like who lined up for that? I have 2 of the Disney label ones. I could barely show them off. They're like right there.
Sorry.
And the only reason why I have them was because they were on insane clearance, and my wife was like, "Oh, it's cute. Oh, it's Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck." So, and I still have them to this day in the
have
box.
those, don't you, Brett? The Mickey Mouse ones?
No. Well, yeah.
There they are in the box. Never took them out of the box, and there's an Animorph under it, which really says how important it is.
Well, this is actually a fun story. So the Mickey Mouse one, yeah, I do have it, and I got it for my wife. It's a knockoff.
Oh, geez.
Don't tell her.
It's okay. Your secret's safe with me. But that's
what I
like,
found. And I'm like,
there was a lot of those collaborations. Remember the iPod? Remember all of those, they go nowhere. These are all ideas. What happens is someone comes into the company that I call a tourist Hasbro employee, and they come up with some idea that everyone in the room thinks is genius, and then it shits the bed, and then no one talks about it, and then 6 months later they do it again, and it's continuous. It's continuous over and over. And like every time I talk with the Hasbro team at San Diego, and what I love about them is they're very transparent with their feelings about stuff. They won't say it to their
that's the guy that gets
bosses.
Coffee now.
And it's like, but they'll be very transparent. They're like, yeah, some of these ideas, it's like, but the problem is those ideas are not decided by the designers. The designers are brought those ideas. Make this happen. And then they go, okay, not a good idea, but sure, like they got a paycheck they got to make, so it's some of those ideas that come from the upper management, the marketing teams. And when you get to like, even like the senior marketers that are the ones that meet with, like the senior marketer will be like, I'm a sneakerhead. I'd really like if there was a Nike Transformer. That's not a good idea. I don't care. I really like sneakers, and I want my son, who doesn't talk to me, who always looks at his phone, to like me now. And those kind of decisions are made, And
like I said, and then when they tank, that's the guy that goes and gets the coffee. I mean,
well, that guy just ends up working for Hewlett Packard or something. Like, just I go on LinkedIn and look at the employee like history of all these guys that have only been with the company for a year or two, and it's like they never came from anything that was the toy industry. It's always like something that's anything but the toy industry, and it's like, well, then what are you bringing to the company? But you know what it is, because then they could put on their resume that they worked for a Fortune 500 company. Doesn't matter if it's a toy company. I worked for a Fortune 500 company, Hasbro, and I worked for a worldwide known brand, Transformers. Yeah, you don't need to know that I gave some ideas that were absolutely terrible, and I might have suggested a battleship movie.
That I was the Xerox copy guy or the guy that went and got coffee. It doesn't matter.
No. Well, the reality is the CEO of the company right now, Chris Cox, originally worked for microtransactions for Microsoft.
Well, there you go.
He
failed upwards.
That's corporate in a nutshell.
That's how they fall upstairs.
But it's absolutely bonkers, and it's that kind of stuff where it's such a shame, because there to me, I feel with toys or anything that's entertainment media, and toys falls into that. Toys is entertainment. I feel that everything has an evolution. Everything has something where you have to take a step back. Aaron has this great quote. He says, toys are fashion, meaning it always changes. There's always something new that you kind of always have to cater to. And like when we were at San Diego last year, That was when the Labubu craze happened. And all the toy companies were meeting and going, what could we take away from this? And here was me going like, oh my God, don't go blind box. Like deluxe blind boxes. But what was crazy? The comic book companies that same weekend were like, ugh. And there's blind bag comic books now where you get like, you don't know what cover you're going to get. So the comic book companies went that direction. Toy companies in general haven't yet, but Labubu made people, because it was the fashion of the time, because Labubu was the fashion. Oh my God, so what they have to do is they have to look outside of the toy fashion. They got to look at what's happening in technology, what's happening in media, what is really popping off, and then molding itself to that. I look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a weird tangent here for a moment. But TMNT was always really good at going, what's hot? Because it was a simpler design toy. It took less time to engineer as opposed to a Transformer. Oh, trolls are popular? Troll Turtles. Oh, Micro Machines are popular? Micro Turtles. Oh, G2 comes out? We're going to do the mutations. They were always doing something that was whatever was going to be the hot thing at that time. And they would always cater to that, because otherwise, how are you buying Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael again? Again. Right. So you always had to figure out a way to convince people. And it's the same thing. How are you going to convince us old heads to buy Optimus again, unless you're doing like going back to what we said with Cliff Jumper, selling you 80% of it, and we'll sell you maybe the 100% later.
Right.
But it's something where, how do you convince the old heads to want to buy this stuff again? I feel, and this is going back to what I said about the G2 era we're in right now, we need a huge reinvention. We need like the beauty, and this isn't me blowing Aaron Archer or anything, but it's like the one great thing about Armada was all new characters, designs, trademarks. Like when you say Red Alert, means completely a different thing in Armada. You know what I mean? Completely different design. When you say Smokescreen, completely different design. Right. So it's like, it's something where you get to keep your trademarks, but you have fresh new ideas. And I think they need to do something like that. They need something that is so unapologetically different than what they've had before. You could still call it Dinobot and this and that and use all the trademarks they've had before, but have it be a Cliff Jumper that's a jet that turns into a pterodactyl that's a Decepticon. Like you gotta go completely left field. Number one, because you're at least selling people something different who have been here forever, but by being different, and this is the secret in the sauce that I can't even figure out yet, you're going to have to add something to it that attracts that Gen Alpha audience that isn't interested.
But the problem
now, what is that? Probably video games, a cell phone kind of thing. That I can't, like, if I had the answer, I'd even keep it to myself, because then I'll just sell it to Hasbro myself. But it's as opposed to giving it for free here and someone stealing it. But it's something where whatever that answer is, that's the answer that you apply that with fresh ideas. Because look at what Beast Wars was. Hasbro today would never do a new line and use the trademark that's never been used before: Rhinox, Cheetor, Rat Trap. Oh, Dinobot, that's old. Okay, we're good there. Optimus Primal, Pterosaur. Okay, Scorponok, that's okay, we're good with that. Insecticon, okay, we're good with that. Razor Beast, Polar Claw. They would have never done that. But why? Because it was Kenner. That's why. Kenner was the risk taker. Kenner was coming off of the super successful Power to Force 2, which was going well.
But also Kenner was on the down ride. They knew they were gone. They were getting ready to be taken over, and they had no. It's like we let's just do it. And in 90, 93, 94, 95, that was the fall of Kenner. They knew it.
Beast Wars also,
and it worked.
With Beast Wars, it was also an example of, because Project G2 didn't work, Transformers had nothing to lose at that point.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, we're on the way out.
You gave them Optimus. You gave them Bumblebee. You gave them the G1 cartoon. You gave them a Simon Furman comic. Well, mind you, that didn't mean anything back then, but it meant something to us now. And it's like, it's something where you gave them all of this and no one showed up. And there's this great article by MCS Hosting, which was the company that worked with McDonald's for their promotions for their toys. And it was McDonald's that kind of steered the creation of Beast Wars, where it was Hasbro going, hey, we finally want to do a national promotion with you that's outside of like McChangeables isn't part of Hasbro, but McChangeables, the Converters, and of course the St. Louis promotion, which was the only true Transformer promotion up to that point. We want to do a national one. Here's some ideas. Here's a space shuttle. Here's this. These files are out there. It's fascinating. And it's like these back and forth between MCS Hosting, which was the company that was in charge of like the middleman for McDonald's to Disney. Hey, we want to do a Disney princess movie, whatever. Let's do some ideas. Oh, it'll be a bell when you pull it and it does this. And so they were like, here's a space shuttle. Here's this. Here's that. Here's a beast. And they're like, oh, we like that one. Oh, you like that one? Oh, let's do more beasts. And that's why when you look at that first wave of McDonald's ones, Manta Ray is Optimus Prime. Megatron is Beetle. If you look at those head sculpts, like Cheeto, the Panther is Prowl. Ironhide was the Rhino. They were going with old trademarks, old characters, and it was going to be that. But then when it fell into Kenner, there was this reinvention. And then they went with, we don't need to protect trademarks, all new ideas. And what was the technology linchpin that I was getting to before for Beast Wars? You know that answer. CG animation. That was the fashion. That was the fashion that was there. If Beast Wars was like G.I. Joe Extreme and it was a 2D cartoon, we wouldn't be even here today. We wouldn't even be having these conversations. It would have been G.I. Joe Extreme and it would have went, no one would have cared. But because it was CG, it could have been the same show, same storytelling, same voice actors. G.I. Joe Extreme was all the same voice actors. Lieutenant Stone was Gary Chalk, they were both the leaders. But it was because it was CG. And it was rare at the time. You had Reboot, you had Toy Story, and you had this one European show called Insectors. That was it. No one else had CG in television. And Toy Story doesn't count as television, but it's like that was it. So for Transformers to have that as that one exclusive fashionable piece, that saved that brand and helped everything else. So goes back to today, where it's like, you need to have that fashion, whatever that is, and inject that into the brand with some newness. But they just don't have that now. And again, Gen Alpha is not interested. If you go to Gen Alpha right now and ask them what they're interested in, they don't even have a fucking clue. They're not, because that changes week to week. There's a new meme, and then there's a new streamer, and then there's a new this, and then there's a new controversy, and then, bro, you're cooked, unk, and then they've moved on. It's a lot more different, where you used to have a brand. In the 80s, a brand would last around for 3 years. In the 90s, it was 2 years. Today, it's like, hey, you like Among Us until you don't? Hey, you like a Labubu until you don't? It moves so
I call
quick
it
now.
oversaturation, honestly, sometimes.
Well, it's not so much an oversaturation as so much the fact that we're in a world today where everything is accessible at our fingertips. We don't have the water cooler kind of situation of storytelling where everyone watched the same 3 channels and watched the same shows. You would go to, if you went to school, if everyone only had Fox, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, whatever, there was a 1 in 3 chance everyone in school was watching the same thing. Today, every person's evening could be different in terms of what they consume in terms of media. And that factor alone makes it extremely difficult to pigeonhole a extremely condensed popular media franchise when this guy over here just watched old Seinfeld episodes on Netflix, and this guy over here watched, Adventure Time, and no one was watching anything on the same page.
Right.
And now it's, you could be obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog, watching Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons on Netflix, while playing Sonic the Hedgehog video games on your subscription service on Nintendo Switch, while buying Sonic the Hedgehog action figures right now from Walmart, while buying a Sonic the Hedgehog, pillowcase, and then eating Sonic the Hedgehog, microwave dinners that are also available at Walmart. And this is all real things I've just said right now. You can watch all of these and live the Sonic life. And Sonic the Hedgehog is not the pinnacle brand it was back in 1991, 92, but you could still do that today in a microdose, and no company would call that a success because no money was made across all of those things except for like little licenses here and there.
Right.
You know, Jack Pacific was able to make some money from those toys through the license, and Michelina's was able to make money from that food promotion, and whoever was like printing the games for the Switch, that distributor makes the money. It's not the same as it used to be, and it's so complicated with that, where and then they complain how they're not making money. Then they look back and they go like, oh my God, like why aren't we like making crazy money like we were before? And it's like, it's not 19. Look, when the Michael Bay movies blew up, we were literally like, think about it, right? The first movie came out, and Facebook was only 6 months old, and not everyone had still computers in their house. And that same year in 2007 was when the iPhone came out. But the iPhone didn't really reach, a proper population mass distribution until 2010, 2011. People still had flip phones in 2007. So we still were in that world where, everyone was still going to see the same movies. Mm-hmm. And that's why those Michael Bay movies did so well. Right. Today, it's like Transformers 1 was amazing. And no one saw it because everyone's in a different world today. Yeah. Transformers 1 should have made more money than all of those movies. Sorry?
So that's a very true statement on that. I mean, I personally think, when it comes to the movies that have been coming out, that movie was amazing, but I personally also believe that the first trailer they produced really put a sour taste.
Oh yeah, the marketing was terrible.
They screwed up it's the same thing back when the movie Dread came out. Marketing was terrible for it. Otherwise, it would have boasted the other two movies that they had planned to follow it. But it tanked because the marketing was garbage.
The marketing for Transformers 1, not only was it misguided, but it was also poorly spent because, like, to give an example, one of the marketing things was, we're going to shoot the trailer into space and play it live. That was one of them. That was extremely expensive to do that, to shoot it into space and then play it live. While Chris Hemsworth and Tyree, whatever his name was, who was Megatron, comment, and you have to pay them for their time, So all of that marketing budget was ridiculously stupid for no reason. Put a trailer on television. It doesn't even need to be on the Super Bowl anymore. That world doesn't exist anymore. Again, you think Japan is watching the Super Bowl? You think Europe is watching the Super Bowl? You think Africa is watching the Super Bowl? No, you don't need. Put it on the internet for free on Paramount's channel, and then it'll go viral, and then all the different movie reviewers will rip it anyways and put it on their channels, and that's free advertising. There's ways to go about that. But they were, again, it's just the people that they hire at these companies now it's this fake it till they make it kind of thing, where no one is qualified for their jobs, but they're there just totally destroying these franchises. And it's crazy because Transformers 1, if that thing would have came out in 2007, we would have had an MCU level, like, run of movies.
Oh yeah, easily.
Because it would have created so much of a growth. But instead, like, those Michael Bay movies' success was partially curiosity, because people are like, let's see, because keep in mind, 2007, there was no Marvel movies, there was no Iron Man movie yet, so there was no one wrote that script yet of how you do these movies. So Bay was the first, and when that first movie did well, and then people were curious to see how the second one did, and then it was just kind of like, it still made tons of money because of China, but it was diminishing returns in terms of the goodwill of the audience. Because Revenge of the Fallen didn't knock people's socks off. Dark of the Moon didn't knock people's socks off. And then it just kept the diminishing. You could argue, Bumblebee was a fun movie. But by then, people were burned. People didn't care anymore. If you would have, if Bumblebee was the first movie, in 2007, people would have been interested. There would have been a different evolution that would have happened there. But that wasn't the case, unfortunately. And it just goes on and on about that, where it's the same conversation I always have, is where do you go from here with this brand? And I have one answer, but I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it'll work because you need the audience that is coming in to be your investment for the future. The only reason why people are excited about a Commander class Armada Optimus Prime is because 20 years ago you had kids who were buying it. If you don't have kids who are 10 years old buying Transformers, you are effed for the next 20 years.
Yep.
Because what is going to be your nostalgia item? There's nothing. That is a big problem. That is a big red, like blinking problem in your face of where the hell do you go from there? Because let's be real. Let's just go back 10 years. 2016. It's like, okay, what was the media in 2016? It was Cyberverse. Like we were just going into Cyberverse. Think about it, that's how close that was. We were just finishing up the Robots in the Skies 2015 series, and we were starting up Cyberverse. And yeah, there'll be some nostalgia for maybe those kids who watched those 10-minute episodes of Cyberverse. Jesus, you know. Earthspark shit the bed, didn't do well. BotBots didn't find its audience, unfortunately, mostly due to bad timing. You know, the Netflix series had good initial ratings, and then it completely tapered off from there. So you have all, and then we go into Rise of the Beast. No, you know, didn't do as well, lost money. Transformers 1 lost money. So it's like in the past 10 years, we haven't built any audiences that are going to have nostalgia. Where that's scary because now we have another 10 years left before it's the 20-year mark of that era. And where's our Armada Optimus Prime Commander class 20 years from now?
Right.
Well, 10 years from now. What is it going to be? You're telling me we're going to be able to get away with Commander class Cyberverse Optimus Prime? You're telling me we're going to be able to get away with you know, HasLab Titan class Tripticon from Cyberverse? You know, like those characters don't have the weight to do that.
Right.
So it's scary from the long-term repercussions of what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because you have not invested at all. And that was the mistake that the WWE had too, where the Attitude Era in the 90s was so adult geared that they had no child audience. And then the following generation, Ruthless Aggression and PG era, were very light. That's why John Cena was celebrated so much, because he worked cheaply and he was the kid-focused one, because they needed to rebuild, because there was nothing.
So
There was nothing. You had no one
I
to go in there. You had only your old heads.
do
And
have
we
to
all
let,
age out.
Yeah. I do have to let Megamus go. He has got to go get some rest.
No problem.
He's got work in the morning, right?
We all have.
Yeah,
Insanity.
I mean, 4:45 comes early.
It does. So let's go ahead and have you do a sign off before you bounce.
Real quick, final thoughts on repaints and recolors and all that. I get it. It's a necessary evil. If you don't like it, just remember that's kind of what helps get some of the items we get out, because they're banking on the repaints and all that. So we still get what we want, and if you don't like the repaints, then don't buy them. Simple as that. I've always said you vote with your money. So that's the way it works. But I do have to go. But everyone, have a good night. And as I always say, good night, everybody.
Good night, Megamus. We'll see you next week. Okay.
I might as well use this moment to promote.
for
In
it.
6 days from now, Free Comic Book Day. My
Yes.
comic book will be hitting shelves. The Mega Man Showdown special. Proto Man gets the right Proto Man.
Mhm.
Go into your local comic book store. Free Comic Book Day. It is free. You pick it up for free. But pick up something from the store. Support the store. Go to freecomicbookday.com. They have a store locator, so you can find a local store in your area that's participating. and go pick up. There's a Transformer book too. You can pick up this. You can pick up the Transformer book. There's a Mask book. There's a Gem book. There's a Marvel Rivals book. What else is there? There's a lot of good ones there. So
That's pretty
a little bit
awesome.
of everything. Yeah, something
Well,
I've been working on.
I knew that you were still working on the comic book, and I'm so happy for you, dude. You have no idea
Thank you.
how happy I am for you, because this has been a lifelong dream of yours for years.
It's literally, it sounds cliche, like never give up on your dream. Like just push at it. Put I always say put stuff out there. Like people always ask me like, how did you do it? It's like, you got to put your stuff out there. You know what I mean? Like it was me doing my own podcast, showing that I have the knowledge of stuff, showing that I know storytelling and writing and business. And because when I was hired with Udon, it wasn't just to steer the Mega Man brand as a writer, it was a marketer. It was understanding like world building, like all the stuff that it takes to really help with a brand. And then, like this one that's off camera here, but like even like I started with this one with the X series, and I mean, we have so much other stuff planned for the next 2 years and everything. It's a long initiative, but it's an example of like, if you have a dream, like figure out if you want to be good at football, figure out what it takes and do that, so it's the same thing. If you want to like write for Transformers or write for a brand or something, meet the right people, go to conventions. Those writers, those artists are there. Pick their brains, figure out stuff. Like I was very lucky in the sense that I was always in the right place at the right time, meaning I was always at cons. So I was always 3 steps away from writers, artists, voice actors, creators, designers. And at any point, if you're not shy, you could go up to them and ask them questions. And if they're not assholes, they'll give you answers. You know what I mean? And then you kind of enter this like apprentice mentorship kind of relationship where you learn through those guys. And it helped a lot. It helped a lot. And, I give all the credit to guys like Alex Milne and Josh Perez, who I did my very first comic book with them together, an indie book, a Nightbird book that I did back in 2010. That was the first comic book I ever wrote. And then every year we did a book afterwards. Yeah, we did a GoBots book together just for fun. Like imagine Alex Milne drawing GoBots, like it was so fun doing that stuff. But it helped me understand comic books. And again, Alex was a big part of that. And then when the time came for like doing it on a professional level, I had already had all that experience with people that are big names in the comic book space.
Right.
It's not every day you could say, oh, yeah, I got like, Alex Milne had a legendary, 55 issue run on More Than Meets the Eye with IDW. But long before he did that, he was doing indie books with me, So I got lucky in that sense that I got to work with such a prolific individual, and I got to, be under the learning tree, so to speak.
So, I mean,
so that helped. But
my question to you, Dan, is like, when it comes to like, what really started your passion to want to pursue doing that? Like getting into actually writing comics?
I knew at a young age, I wish I probably have them somewhere at my parents'. I always were drawing my own comic books. The first comic book I drew my own comic. I drew a Captain America comic book as a kid. And I knew very quickly right there and then, I can't draw. I have a firm belief, especially working with artists very closely all these years, I have a firm belief that there's people that learn to draw and they're okay. They're okay. But the people that are like this, that left side of their brain is just, they draw on a level that's spectacular. And I think that's what separates the professionals from the fan artists. And I'm not trying to be derogatory, but it's like, because there's tons of people that come up to me that want art opportunities. I'm a writer. We need artists, And I've helped out a lot of the Transformer community get art gigs through Udon. But there's a lot of guys that got rejected, and they're great artists. They could draw better than me and you any day of the week.
Right.
But there's certain people that just have that little extra, And so at a young age, I knew I didn't have that extra, But I knew I had creativity. I had imagination and storytelling. And I was a student of the game, loved comic books growing up, loved Marvel books. I wasn't so much a DC guy. I get the odd, Flash book or Batman book, but I was a big Marvel kid growing up. And I just loved Marvel comics. And Chris Claremont, Frank Miller, and Jim Starlin. Those are like my holy trinity of dudes that I love, that were just like inspirations to me. And it's just something where reading their stuff, and then you sprinkle a little bit of Akira Toriyama Dragon Ball in there, because I loved the Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball as a manga was available in Canada, specifically in French-speaking Canada, 7 years before the rest of North America. So we had Dragon Ball as a manga in French, as it was like we would get it a year after Japan would. So we were very familiar with Dragon Ball, and it wasn't recognized as manga to us back then. It was just unique Japanese material. And that was also very influential. And I find this book has a little bit of that in it, also because the artist Mick Fong is very Japanese inspired with his art style. But that also kind of influenced, storytelling. I use the term battle shonen, action and storytelling and tournaments, and, one character outsmarting the other character. One's strong, but one's brainy, and, he could outsmart him. And it's just that kind of storytelling. And, look, you can't argue that Transformers doesn't bleed in there with its storytelling elements, and the Simon Furmans and the Bob Budianskis throughout the years, and the Pat Lees doing stuff with Simon Furman, and the Don Figueroas, and all of those fall in there too. But I always knew that, like, I feel that there was an opportunity there, that if you're in the right place, there's a saying in wrestling that is so true. Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, said it. Business gets done at the bar. And what that means is that if you asked any wrestler ever how they got into the business, the old guys, not today where you go into a school and stuff, you were just in the right place at the right time at the bar. You were a tall guy at the bar. That weekend there was a wrestling event, and someone went, "Hey buddy, you're kind of tall. Like, do you ever think about pro wrestling?" And my first professional gig writing for Hasbro I was at TFCon 2014. I was sitting across from Alex Milne at the bar. Josh Perez was diagonal from me, and to the right of me, had no fucking idea, was Jesse Witherich, who did HR and job delegation for copy. Copy is what we would call the tech specs, right? And I didn't know that prior to, like, me sitting down at the table and talking with Alex and Josh, that Alex was talking with Jesse because of the BotCon box set they were working on at the time. Because Alex would do the box sets and stuff. He'd do the box art. And they were talking, and then at one point Alex was just like, "Well, why don't you ask Daniel to write some stuff? He knows everything. I've worked him." And it's, again, thanks to Alex, And then that happened at the bar of TFCon. Mr. Perfect's statement come to life.
Yep.
Where it's like those opportunities. Now, if I wasn't at that bar, sitting at that table, or going to TFCon that weekend, none of this happens. If I don't go to San Diego Comic-Con and go to the Hasbro booth and later the Capcom booth and have those discussions, and I didn't go to San Diego that weekend, this doesn't happen. So it's right place, right time, but you have to create those opportunities. It's not so much luck, is that you spawn it into yourself by going there. If you want to, get into being wrestling and you don't go to the shows and hang out with the wrestlers after and stuff, you're not going to create those opportunities. And it's the same thing if you want to get into the comic book industry or do any kind of writing, or if you want to be a designer. It has, like, if you're a kid who's designing Transformer toys, bring your designs with you. Go to the Hasbro designers that are at San Diego. Now you could reach them. Now you're not just another name on Instagram private messaging you, bugging them. Now you have their full attention, face-to-face, one-on-one. "Hey, check this out. I made this. Check this out. Isn't that kind of cool? Hey, do you guys have any openings right now?" That's how it is.
I mean,
it's the old-fashioned way.
It is. I agree with you 100% on that, Dan, because, like, even in my experience with all the stuff I've had opportunities with, and meeting the people I have and such, it's because of networking and actually showing up and doing stuff, not sitting on the back burner hoping somebody gives me a phone call or a text or whatever. You have
In a
to
world today
put
where
yourself out
everyone
there.
is just sitting on their phone, and it's if we're more separated than ever face to face, like a Zoom call is not going to make you stand out, you know? They're not going to remember that Zoom call. You need to really like meet them in person. You have to show your energy and your personality and stuff, and your talent. Alex Milne, I love Alex. He's not the most charismatic individual, but his talent speaks for him, you know? So it's something where if you have the talent, that'll speak for you if you're not a charismatic individual. And it's something where, goodness, like I was always in the right place at the right time. And then when the opportunity was given to me, I showed up. You know, I love Rob Liefeld, who created Deadpool and Cable and everything. His story is really good. I love his story because how he got into the comic book industry is very similar. He would go to comic conventions and he would bring his art with, and he would always show it to whoever was the companies that were there that show. And so there was a huge show that was happening in Long Island, and he was like, I'm going to go because everyone is there. Like every company was there. And so at first what he did was, because he saw the Marvel booth, he saw the DC booth, but they were busy. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to go to the smaller guys. And at the time it was Now Comics, Dark Horse, you know, smaller guys. And he showed it to them. And a lot of those guys would look at his art and go, well, kid, you know, you got to work on your feet. You got to work on your paneling. Because to be fair to Rob Liefeld, even to this day, some people would criticize his art. You know, it's not the best art in the world. But they would tell him, hey, you got to work on this. You got to work on that. And then he went to the DC booth and they looked at it and they went, oh, you know, it's okay, but you got to work on this. You got to work on that. And he felt kind of down, right? And he was going to leave. Like, he's like, you know what? I'm done for the day. Let's just go home. And his friend told him, we're already fucking here. Go show the stuff at the Marvel booth. What do you have to lose? We're already here. We're going to get on the fucking subway and go home. And wait. So he's like, fine, whatever. We're already here. He goes to the Marvel booth. And they look at it, and it's the same thing. Ah, kid, you know, you got to work on this. You got to work on that. But we have an opening right now on Black Panther miniseries issue number 2 because our guy's fallen behind. Could you fill in? Your style kind of matches his style. Could you just fill in for 2? Now, this is a hungry Rob Liefeld that's never done a professional gig in his life. What do you think he did when he got home that day? He didn't own a fax machine, so he belted out all the pages in a day and faxed everything the next day. And obviously Marvel's like, damn, kid, you work quick and you work good. You know what? We got some other hey, we're working on a new book, New Mutants. Do you want to work on that? The rest is history.
Right.
The second he was on New Mutants, he's off to the races. He's creating Deadpool. He's creating Cable. You know, that's what it is that you have to create those opportunities for yourself. You got to put yourself out there. If you don't do that, that friend that told Rob, go talk to them, owes Rob owes him millions of dollars now. You know what I mean? Like, it changed his life forever. But those are great. Those are stories that are so true that if you don't put yourself out there, and people are shy, they're scared, they're scared of rejection, bro, you don't learn anything unless you lose. You know, as someone who did sports his whole life, you don't learn shit if you're winning all the time, you know, but the moment you lose, you found out your weakness and you could fix that, you know, and it's the same thing. You could go to a show and completely just fall on your face, but who cares if you fell on your face? Now you know to fix it. Oh, maybe I talked too much. Oh, maybe I didn't have enough eye contact. Man, then you'll get another opportunity. We're going to be here forever on this planet, at least for now. So there'll be another convention. There'll be another opportunity. You know, so there's always a chance. There's always something out there, and that's something that's always stayed true with me is to always be present at those things. I've always felt, my wife back in the day used to always ask me, like, why do you always go to like back in the day when BotCon would come around? Because BotCon was an expensive weekend. The box set, the hotel, flying from Canada to the United States, especially when it was a West Coast show, you know, crossing the entire continent. She always asked me, why do you always go to those shows? And I'm like, because every time I left those shows, I felt like I leveled up a little more in some area. You know what I mean? Like, I talked to this guy or I talked to that guy, and it could be even just leveling up within the community, you know, just getting people to know me a little more. And it's those little progressions every time. It pays off. And I'd like to say that it did on every front. I don't want to say that arrogantly, but it did, So, but it came from doing that and not being scared. And I've always been a talkative person and charismatic, so that helped a lot too. That's obviously was a big advantage for me, but it is something where, doing all that with that definitely led to that final conclusion. And I mean, all the partnerships that came afterwards. I have such a tight relationship with Aaron Archer from Hasbro. Like it's just, and everything that I learned from him. And then the friendships that I built afterwards with the current Hasbro team of Mark Mayer and Nate and Evan Brooks, and those guys, and it's like, and the respect that I get from them and stuff, and the invites to like VIP breakfast dinners and stuff like that with Hasbro, like, but all that does not happen if I don't build who I am today. Right. Like that's the one thing that you have to understand with that is that all, like, again, going to those BotCons, building those relationships, Aaron Archer knowing who I was back then to then create that relationship later on. Like the turning point with that one was, I think it was a TFCon in 2014 or something. I was standing at one of the Japanese dealers' tables. It was the end of the day, like the Saturday was over. We're all going back to our hotel rooms or the bar. And Aaron comes up to me. He's like, so what are you doing later? And because, he knew of me and he knew of my podcasts and stuff and everything. And I was on TFYLP before and stuff.
Right. And
I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm just going to go to the bar and just hang out with people. And then he said to me, well, if you don't want to hang out with me, just say so. And it was just like, oh, geez, and it was just, he wanted to hang out. He wanted to talk business. And we went out for, this was, now I'm starting to remember, it was Washington, TFCon Washington, whichever year that was. We went out to a Chinese restaurant, just me and him, and we talked the business for like 5 hours. And here's a guy, millionaire, worked with Michael Bay, Steven Spielberg, and here's this doofus who's a car mechanic, who's just a really hardcore fan, really. Right. And he's like, oh shit, this kid knows some stuff. And then that opens the doors, But once again, I don't go to that TFCon that year. I don't stand in front of Azusa's table, the Japanese dealer, that moment. Who knows? Yeah. But that's the fascinating part of it, is like, that's how those and that's why, like, I've tried to give back now that I've gotten those off. Like, so with my Mega Man X books, all the cover C's are Transformer artists that don't have work right now. So like where cover A is obviously the featured artist of the book, understandably. Cover B is an alternative artist for book that's within the company. Cover C is, hey, who's not working right now in Transformers that needs a gig? So that's what cover C was. That's me, like, how could I give back a little bit? Because I got opportunities through them. How could I give? So like, Alex Milne, Don Figueroa, Guido Guidi, James Reyes, Josh Perez, who am I forgetting? Marcelo Materi, who does the box art for the Marvel stuff, for the studio series stuff. He's freelance with Hasbro. He doesn't get paid a paycheck like full time. Right. So like for him, it's another way to pay his groceries. So like I got Marcelo to do like a Mega Man cover, and he did a great one actually. So that's awesome, it's something where if I could give back to those dudes, who have all been very respectful to me and helped me out and helped me learn and stuff, that's always the way I've looked at it. It's a bit of a karmatic thing too, where I've always been very lucky with the people that I've met, and they've always been really good to me. So it's like, how do you give that back in some kind of sense? Whenever people, again, like what we're doing right now, if people ever want to know, how did I do it? Like, I'm not going to gatekeep that secret. Like, I'll let you know how I did it. And then you could steal it if you want. Use it for yourself if you could pull it off,
I mean, if anything, Dan, it's a huge inspiration to people, because there's so many people out there that are, I'd say, in this day and age now, that struggle, especially with the whole AI thing taking over so many people's jobs. I tell everybody, it's like, more people now are seeking out non-automated stuff because the automated stuff is so disgustingly taking everything over. They want that raw feel
The
of
real
something.
experience. I have another friend he's trying to start up a YouTube channel, and I told him how the real experiences are going to be so much more valuable in the future. That's why Twitch streamers are bigger than anybody right
Oh, yeah.
now, because that's a real person. That's a real experience. Where, let's be real, even my podcast, if my face isn't there, I could just be an automated voice reading the news, like who knows? But it's the fact that the face is there. That's the real experience. And that's going to add so much to it. Same thing if comic books are made with real art and real writers and they're real people and there's real experiences with real knowledge and real history, that has a value to it. And I think that as time progresses, that's going to be something that's going to be much more valuable. And as it comes from being an inspiration, I mean, Proto Man's writing Proto Man, like, geez, who would have thought, like I wouldn't have, like I pulled that off. Now I just need to do a Hot Rod comic and I'm done, like I'm done. I could die tomorrow, knock on wood,
And to be honest, you never know. You might end up having that opportunity. You
I think it will.
know.
I'm just not pushing for it right now. It's because I'm so busy with this. That's what it is more. I'm so busy with the Mega Man stuff right now, and it's such a dream come true in terms of the opportunities and working on the video game stuff and everything. And not to mention other stuff that we're going to announce at San Diego. That's also other dream come true stuff that's related to that brand and other stuff. Like, again, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, but it's once again, it sounds cliche, but it's like, just reach for it, man. Just fucking reach for it. There's a song by Paul Anka. He's a famous lounge singer from the 1970s and the 80s. He did a song called Reach a Star. And if you listen to the lyrics of that, it's literally that in a nutshell. It's like, this is what you want, go for it. Reach for it. Like, he has a famous line in that song. It's, a fool on a hill has nothing to say. Meaning, like, the people who judge you for having dreams, fuck them. Like, they're a fool on a hill. They're just sitting there and they're going to do nothing with themselves. Because usually, and this is from my own personal experience, the people who judge you are never the successful ones. It's crazy how that is. Where everyone that I've met that's been successful has been so forthcoming to help teach you. It's so interesting. Like, the really successful people, and I think it's because they went through that same thing too to get to where they are. And there's almost something in the back of their head that wants them to, like, pay it forward. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel too. So there's where the people that are judging you, a fool on the hill has nothing to say. Paul Anka, it's like, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? If you listen to those people, then I'd just be getting dirty fixing BMWs. And sure, it pays well, but maybe in life there's more than just making someone else rich. Maybe there's the richness of something that you love too, Like, I make my boss very rich fixing cars. And I'll be honest, I get paid well doing that. But he gets a lot of money from doing that too, from me doing that. But it's like, is there a richness and pride that comes in it that's on a greater level? That's almost, from your childhood and stuff like that stuff. Like, if you could go back and do that for the kid who wanted to be a hockey player, for the guy who wanted to, create a video game or something, like, there's to put your mind to it and make it happen. It can happen, right. But that's what separates the lazy from the people who try, because there's
a very true
there's
statement.
the old saying. Sorry?
So that's a very true statement because
it's like, the old saying, there's one day and then there's day one, mm-hmm. Be the day one guy. Day one today, I'm going to start writing comic books and making something. Or one day I might do it. And that one day, and then you're 70 years old and it's over,
Yeah.
It's like,
and there are
you
people
could probably
that are
still
late
make a comic at 70, but
yeah, well, there are people out there that are late bloomers. And I've met people.
But now, are you 7 years old, getting on a plane, going all the way to San Diego?
No.
Like, do it while you're young and spry, and you could do it. If you're gonna go up to Marvel at 70, and here's my script for the greatest story of Deadpool. It's like, okay, Grandpa, like, hey, it could be amazing. Yeah. Like, look, Colonel Sanders became famous at, like, what is this, his 70s or something. before he did anything. But not everyone is going to have that opportunity.
Oh, that's a very true statement.
You want to hedge your bets.
I do agree with that, because they're like me. I've kind of struggled throughout my life until I actually went to college after I got out of the service, trying to chase my dreams of making stuff with film, creating my own stories and building my own like toys and doing all this kind of thing. Now that I'm older, I am able to do that because I'm at a comfortable state in my life that I have opportunity now. Plus, technology kind of caught up, so it can do it. And it took many years.
The tools
to get there.
are much more accessible now.
Right. But before, it was much harder. But I learned
100%.
a lot from the harder stuff. It made it easier once the tools were available. And that's one thing I think, even in this day and age, like when you're doing all the networking stuff, I'm sure a lot of the stuff now, it's like, oh, I can just hop on something and bam, 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 I'm done. Versus years ago, it's like I had to fax it back and forth and wait for this whole process to snail mail before something came on.
Even in the case of film, like, there's CinemaCon, there's where a whole bunch of other film like high-end and low-end film creators all get together. You get in on that, yeah, sure, it's an investment. You got to fly out there. But sometimes, if you told someone, that $700 investment would change your life forever, so anyone would take that. $700 to change your life forever, that's one paycheck for some people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that would change for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like as opposed to like just, well, I need that $700. Make it happen. Like you put yourself in those opportunities. You find a small film guy. He wants to work on his small film, and then the small film becomes another film, and then that small film did really well, and then you get an opportunity on a medium-sized Hollywood film. That's how the snowball turns. Like it's just the opportunities. I feel, I forget who said it, but it's like you will into existence your opportunities, meaning like by the person that you become. Like if you're there, to me there is no such thing as arrogance, because if you're not confident in yourself, then you didn't convince the most important person in the world that you could do this. If you don't even believe in yourself, then how are you gonna handle criticism? How are you going to handle like any of that stuff? You think there's stuff that I've written that people didn't like? Of course. Oh, yeah. But you got to keep moving forward. You know what I mean? I would say, I forget who it was, but I remember I said to someone, because I remember I forget which artist it was someone I worked with, and they were really down about the negativity about his art style. And I told him, first of all, number one, you're working for a big comic book company, so already you've been approved across thousands of other people. But here's the most important thing that you have to understand, and this is so crucial to it more than anything else. Think about, in your mind right now, the most perfect person you could think of. It could be a celebrity, could be an actor, could be a writer. Think of that person, the most perfect person. You love this person. This person's amazing, right? It could be anybody. It could be a wrestler. It could be and I guarantee there's probably, no joke, 100 people that wish that person was dead. Dead, not just hates them, wishes they were dead. That's just how the world is. Mm-hmm. You're going to meet some stinkers of human beings out there that are just not happy where they are. And sometimes criticism is valid. Sometimes it is straight up good criticism. But sometimes you have people that they're just not happy that you're there and it's not them. Right. And on top of it not being them, they won't even make the effort to try to be where you are. Like they want to be you, they're jealous that they're you, but they'll also never put in the work to get there either. They're just hating, And that's why, like, you could think of any big actor or whatever, there's someone out there that absolutely hates their existence, and you think they're the coolest person in the world, Mm-hmm. So it's like you're never going to win with that. So just be true to yourself, be proud of yourself, believe in yourself, and put all that energy forward into whatever it is, and put yourself into those opportunities. Because I have a friend who's an artist, and I told him, because he doesn't like do conventions, and I told him, I'm like, no one's going to find your art on your kitchen table. And what I mean by that is if you're at a convention, they'll see your art. If you're not going to conventions, your art on your kitchen table, no one's going to see that. You know what I mean? Marvel's not at your kitchen, you know? They're not going to walk into your kitchen and go, hey, that's pretty good, kid. You know? So you got to go to the con. You know, like you got to go to the con, set your stuff up there. But not only, don't even just sit at the table, at your table selling your art. Get up and go to those guys. Like Rob didn't get a table. He just went to the show. You know, he wasn't anchored to a table. He just went straight to those guys. If you went to BotCons back in the day, IDW had a booth. If you were an artist or a writer, the editors are right there. At the time, Chris Rael, who was the head editor, and Andy Schmidt, who was the editor that took over afterwards. Both of those guys in the 10 years of BotCon Fun Pub were always there. You have scripts? You have storytelling of it? You could have talked to them and go, hey, I didn't back then. I was in a different headspace, but those opportunities were there if I needed to do them. Same thing, the animators, the storytellers, the toy designers. A lot of these guys, they're not famous celebrities that are untouchable. You know, the famous writers and artists might be untouchable, but the editors and the guys who hire are just dudes. You know, I don't want to be derogatory to them, but they're accessible. They're there, and you could talk to them, and then you never know what's open right now. Oh, you need someone to fill in on this, you know, Kitty Pryde book or You never know. No. And then again, the snowball rolls, and then it grows into something bigger. A word of advice that I got at Hasbro when I was doing copy was never say no to any job. So the My Little Pony Transformer crossover, I wrote the copy for that. Beyblade Burst toys, I wrote the copy for that. Didn't know anything about those things, but I didn't say no. Hey, could you do this for us? We need someone to do it right now. Oh, Pony, I could be that guy. Oh, Pony, ew. Oh, I don't mess with Beyblade. But no, I didn't say no, and that led to other opportunities. You know, don't say no, because you learn. You learn from doing copy for Pony. You learn from doing copy for Beyblade. It's two different experiences from doing Transformers. Right. And then that opens it to other stuff. So, I mean, it's just so much of that. Yes. So much of that. I feel like I could go on and on with it, but it's just I wish people don't be lazy and always put yourself in that environment. I like, one thing that people are always fascinated is I do a daily podcast, and I've been doing it nonstop since 2015. Nonstop. Okay. So 11 years, not missing a single day, Monday to Friday and Saturdays for live streams, unless I'm at a convention, then I can't do the Saturdays. Right. But nonstop. And they're always like, how the hell do you do that? And I'm like, because I would beat myself up if I miss. How I feel is if I skip it, I would feel like crap. But when I do it, I feel like I could do whatever I want for the rest of the day. After I do that podcast segment, I could go play Pokemon for 9 hours and I don't feel guilty because I did it. I put it out there into the world, and it's that extra step. You know, always don't be lazy. Have some kind of control over your, you know. And look, the people who are going to be lazy are the people that are going to give you your opportunities because they're not going to be in the way. Right. You know. I mean, they're not going to be in line.
That's the whole reason I started this podcast in the first place, is because I missed doing these podcasts. I missed being with like-minded individuals, talking about the new brands, talking about what's going on, and discussions and such, in order to break that mold, to make sure that people know that there are still other fans out there other than just like the big however many there are. You know, a lot of people do listen to RFC. But everybody knows Don from RFC. So he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do this, because we all were on TFYLP together. And we all wanted to have fun and just enjoy the camaraderie. That went a different direction on that podcast, but that's okay. The thing is, it's fine to have other avenues. And that's why, you know, I allowed you to come here onto this cast too, because I was like, you've always been a big, important part in any podcast I've ever been on, and you and I have had a lot of different conversations, even offline, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And the thing is, to me, this is highly important to everybody, because in the future, someone's going to watch this stuff and be like, hey, I heard this from this, and this inspired me to do this, or this.
It resonates a lot. Yeah. Like,
it has a ripple effect. It always does.
It's the same conversations that I would have with really important people at conventions, in hotel bars, like at 3 a.m. You know, everyone's gone back to the room. It's quiet now. We've left the bar. We go to the lobby now. It's a little quieter there. We find a nice couch, and then we'll talk until 3 a.m. about whatever, you know, about, you know, copywriting, comic book writing, you know, toy design. And these are from Hasbro people, comic book people, and you walk away from that lack of sleep and everything, but you walk away from that so much more than what you were before. And it's crazy how that evening could totally transform who you are as a person forever. And I'll even openly admit it, the person that I was, let's say when we first were doing TFYLP together, is a completely different person than who I am now. Like I was like 2013-ish, let's say,
It was something like
you know,
that.
somewhere around there. Like, but that's the growth of those experiences, of meeting those people, and you know, no one is the same person forever. We're here for, if we're lucky, 100 years, if we're unlucky, 60, if we're in the middle, let's say 80, you know. But we're never the same person. We constantly, there's a term called resocialization, meaning like resocialization is when people go into the army, they were one person before and they're a different person afterwards. And that's just the army, you know?
Yeah.
The army could like retrain your brain on how you are as a person. And that could be only 2 years of your life. That could change you forever. But I find resocialization happens multiple times. Who you are between like 0 and 5 is dictated by your parents. Who you are between 5 and like, let's say 13 is dictated by your friends in grade school. Who you are between 13 and like, let's say 18 is the high school kids, and how that affects your mentality and who you decide who you are then. And every social environment has a new resocialization of who you are as a person, positive or negative, you know? So if you're in a really positive environment, and that's why it's very important to surround yourself with positive individuals. If you surround yourself with a bunch of haters that are always negative and they don't do it well, it's like no surprise that you're probably also not going to go anywhere, you know? So it's something where, yeah, all my personal friends in Montreal aren't comic book writers, but I would go to conventions and then put myself into those environments afterwards. And like I said, an evening that would change your life forever. You know, you then have those conversations and like, oh my God, like that's so right. And you go back to your room afterwards and you're staring at the roof and you're like, oh, that's true. You know, I know. It's like, and it stays with you. You take that fruit that you were given and then you try to figure out how to make a salad out of it, you know, and it's just, there's something there. And I've been, again, I hate using the word luck because then it kind of diminishes from the work that's put in, but it's like, I have been very lucky that you know, and maybe it's not luck, maybe it's just, it was always destined to be, and I just see it as luck, but it's like going into those environments, those things transpiring, and then the opportunities that came afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's
that's
just
the thing, Dan. When it comes to this type of stuff, like these deep conversations like this is the stuff that I think a lot of people can really kind of take home. And
yeah.
I think it really helps some people so that way they can actually see stuff that's beyond just picking up a toy off the shelf, beyond reading that comic book, beyond watching that movie, listening to that song, knowing
There's only 20 people that get to write a comic book for Free Comic Book Day. Only 20 books. I'm one of them. I would have never guessed 2 years ago. 2 years ago that this journey started. I would have never guessed 2 years ago that from standing in line for Free Comic Book Day to now I'm one of the 20 books in a short 2 years. How much that changed. And again, all the credit to the editors at Udon and my artists that I get to work with, and my letterers, Marshall, and the colorist, Josh Perez and Chamba, like all those talented guys, Edwin and Mick Fong and Hanzo. I could go on and on, all the Japanese dudes from Capcom. Like, it's just, I would have never thought 2 years ago that now I'm here. And who knows what 2 years from now will be? Who knows? We'll be here. I'll be talking about my Hollywood movie. Who knows? You never know. Like, it's like, you never know. You never know. But the point is that you keep doing it. You keep putting it out there. Like, it's like a muscle. If you don't train the muscle, it gets atrophy. You know? So it's the same thing. If you don't keep doing something, you're just going to give it atrophy, and you're going to let it, like, you're going to lose the muscle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep at it. And man, like, just always.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and get us to sign off for the night because this
Yeah,
has been an
we'll call it a night.
extremely long cast, but that's okay.
Yeah, we did an extremely long one today.
Yes, we did. This has probably been the longest
Yeah.
one we've had in
All right, we'll call it
a
quits
pretty long
tonight.
time. But I'm going to have you go ahead and plug more of the stuff that you have before you bounce, and then I'll sign us off, and then we'll get out of here.
At Protoman on Twitter, aka X. That's my Twitter. Protoman Gaming on Instagram. Again, next Saturday is the Free Comic Book Day book. Go to freecomicbookday.com. They have the list of all the books that are going to be available there, and they have a great store locator. So if you want to know and you just literally put your zip code, postal code, whatever code for your country or whatever, you just put that in, and then it'll tell you what local comic book store is participating. Usually, on average, it's two to five free books you get to have. You walk in, you no questions asked. You walk in, you get them for free. So that's happening. Also in May next month is Mega Man May. So I'm going to have 2 other books that are coming out that same month also of Mega Man X stuff. So that's happening. But yeah, just Twitter. That's probably the best way to follow everything I'm doing there. And from Twitter, I keep people updated on everything I'm working on.
Other than your
That's
podcast
usually my
you do
hub.
every week.
For everything. Yeah, every podcast segment I do will be posted on Twitter. Every comic book I'm working on will be posted on Twitter. Instagram's too visual, so I don't put everything on there because you can't post like a podcast link on Instagram,
No.
So, but Twitter, that's the go-to. At Protoman on Twitter.
Okie dokie.
That's the go-to.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Proto Man, for
Yeah.
being on our podcast this week.
No problem.
But to my viewers, you guys tune in next week. We'll end up having some more. I know this kind of was a longer topic, but hey, good meat some people need to hear. This helps refresh the ears, so that way you guys know that you're not all alone out there, and you got people out there that are still inspiring you to do the great things in the world. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.